Lost civilizations, ancient wisdom, and hidden knowledge. Was Atlantis an advanced civilization that fell in a cataclysmic conflict with Lemuria? From the sunken lands of Mu in the Pacific to the subterranean refuge of Telos beneath Mount Shasta, these legendary worlds hold secrets of peace, unity, and cosmic guidance. Did the Agartha network subterranean cities preserve sacred archives, crystalline domes, and holographic technology? Join us as we uncover the wisdom of Lemurian mentors like Elder Meron and the divine plans of Melchizedek in a journey of reintegration, spiritual alignment, and lost knowledge. Atlantis and Lemuria, a Telosian princess reminisces. The winds whispered through the ancient pines of Mount Shasta, carrying with them an air of mystery, as if the earth itself concealed secrets too vast to be uttered. Beneath this imposing peak, hidden from the eyes of surface dwellers, lay the luminous city of Telos. It was a city of splendor, carved from the heart of the mountain by the descendants of a once mighty civilization, the Lemurians of Mu. Within this subterranean sanctuary, Sharula Dukes, a princess of Telos, stood at the edge of a great decision. Her alabaster robes shimmered like the moonlit sea as she gazed at the ethereal dome that shielded Telos from the outer world. The city pulsed with an otherworldly glow, its crystalline spires reaching skyward, though no sky could be seen. Its people, serene and ageless, moved with a grace that spoke of harmony and wisdom acquired over millennia. Sharula, called the soft yet commanding voice of her mentor, Elder Meron. His silver hair flowed past his shoulders, and his violet eyes reflected the wisdom of countless generations. It is time. You are to journey to the surface to share the truths that have shaped us since the fall of Lemuria. The world above stands at a precipice, much like we once did. Sharula turned to him, her eyes a deep, radiant blue mirroring the depths of her resolve. I have heard the call, Elder Meron, but will they listen? The surface has forgotten the ways of peace and unity. They dwell in shadows we cast away long ago. They must, he replied gravely. If not, their fate will echo the sorrow of our ancestors. Long ago, in an age before history as the surface knows it, two titanic civilizations stood as the pinnacles of human achievement, Atlantis in the Atlantic and Lemuria in the Pacific. These nations, vast and resplendent, wielded powers that could shape the very fabric of existence. But where Lemuria sought to preserve the sanctity of life and allow lesser cultures to evolve naturally, Atlantis saw itself as a steward of destiny, believing the less advanced should be brought under its control. The clash of ideologies birthed conflict, and that conflict escalated into war. The skies over the Pacific and Atlantic darkened with the smoke of battle, and the seas churned as ships of unmatched design engaged in combat. On the lands, warriors wielding weapons of light and energy fought with a ferocity that stained the earth itself. In the great council chamber of Lemuria, lit by the soft radiance of crystalline orbs, the elders convened. This war, said Elder Shion, his voice trembling with the weight of his words, is folly. The earth herself weeps beneath our feet. We fight not for dominance, but for survival, countered another. Atlantis will not rest until we submit, and submission is death. The room fell silent as Queen Alara, Sharula's great ancestor, rose from her throne. Her presence was commanding, yet her voice carried the sorrow of one who had seen too much. If we continue on this path, there will be no victors. The land itself warns us. I have seen the visions. The ground will tremble, the seas will rise, and the sun will grow dim. We must act to preserve what we can. Her prophecy would come to pass. The Atlantean-Lemurian wars, waged with technologies that tore at the fabric of creation, left scars that would last for eons. Deserts such as the Outback, the Mojave, and the Gobi bore silent witness to the devastation. The air became poisoned, the earth scarred, and the waters restless. Both continents were fatally weakened, and the elders of Lemuria knew their homeland would not endure. Yet the Lemurians, always forward-looking, prepared for survival. Beneath Mount Shasta, they carved Telos, a city of refuge where their people could thrive away from the turmoil above. 25,000 souls descended into the mountain, leaving behind the ruins of their once great empire. Sharula's thoughts returned to the present. The surface dwellers live fleeting lives, Meron. How can they grasp the wisdom of millennia? They may not at first, he admitted. But through you, they will glimpse what is possible. Show them how we live, Sharula. Show them the unity of our hearts, the harmony of our spirits, and the truths we hold dear. She stepped toward the portal at the city's edge, a swirling veil of energy that shimmered like a living mirror. With a final glance at her mentor, she nodded. I will go, for the memory of Lemuria and the hope of a brighter future. As she passed through the portal, the light engulfed her, and she emerged onto the sunlit slopes of Mount Shasta. The air was crisp and vibrant, filled with the songs of birds and the rustling of leaves. For a moment, she stood still, letting the warmth of the sun touch her skin. Let me tell you a tale, she whispered to the wind, her voice carrying the weight of her mission. A tale of two great nations, of folly and wisdom, of destruction and rebirth, that the world remember. And so, Sharula Dux began her journey, a bridge between the ancient and the modern, bearing the wisdom of a forgotten age to a world in desperate need of remembrance. Deep beneath the towering sentinel of Mount Shasta, the city of Telos lay cradled in a hushed glow, a sanctuary of light and life amidst the world's darkest hours. Its crystalline domes shimmered like frozen starlight, their soft radiance illuminating a society untouched by time. This was not merely a city, but a testament to resilience, born from the ashes of a continent lost to history, Lemuria. Long ago, before the surface world was broken by fire and water, Lemuria stretched across the vast expanse of the Pacific. Its lands were verdant, its people wise, and its temples soared to heights that seemed to caress the heavens. Yet even this pinnacle of civilization fell prey to the ancient cycles of conflict. In their bitter war with Atlantis, the Lemurians were humbled, their homeland shattered. When the earth trembled, the skies darkened, and the seas roared to claim the land, the Lemurians turned their eyes downward, to the cradle of the earth, to safety in the depths. The elders of Lemuria, cloaked in flowing robes that caught the light like liquid pearl, gathered in the great temple at the heart of their crumbling kingdom. A solemn quiet filled the chamber, broken only by the faint hum of crystalline energy resonating in the air. It is time, said Elder Sionis, his voice heavy with the weight of inevitability. The land we have cherished will soon be no more. The cataclysms are upon us. We must act swiftly if we are to preserve what remains of our people. The high priestess, Alara, her golden eyes ablaze with determination, rose from her seat. We must petition the Agartha network. The subterranean cities have long been a refuge for those who seek to escape the ravages of the surface world. They have weathered storms far greater than this, but we will not be accepted lightly. Murmurs spread through the room like ripples in a pond. They all knew of Shambhala the Lesser, the seat of the Agartha network's wisdom and governance. It was said to be a city of unparalleled harmony, built by the survivors of Hyperborea after the earth lost its protective mantle over 100,000 years ago. The network of subterranean cities that radiated outward from Shambhala, the Lesser, had become a beacon for those who sought safety and enlightenment. But the Agarthians were no strangers to the destruction wrought by pride and war. They will demand proof, said Elder Sionis gravely. Proof that we have learned the lessons of oppression and war, that we understand the value of peace, not only as an ideal, but as a way of being. And what if they do not believe us? Another elder asked. What if the sins of our past condemn us to perish with our land? Ilara's gaze swept over the council. Then we must show them. We must leave behind our pride, our divisions, and our weapons of destruction. We must show them that we are no longer the people who waged war against Atlantis, but a people reborn. The journey to acceptance was arduous. The Lemurians, like their Atlantean adversaries, had been expelled from the Confederation of Planets after their violent conflict. Now, they faced a trial not only from the Guardians, but also from the Confederation itself. Delegates from Lemuria traveled to Shambhala the Lesser, bearing with them the wisdom of their sages, the purity of their intentions, and the stories of their repentance. The elders of Shambhala the Lesser, their forms graceful and ageless, listened in silence as the Lemurian spoke. For days, the chamber resonated with tales of loss and lessons learned, of a people brought low and their resolve to rise again, not through conquest but through harmony. "You seek refuge beneath the earth," said an Agardian elder at last, his voice a deep, resonant melody. "But tell us, what do you bring to its heart? Will you carry the seeds of your old ways, or will you nurture something new?" Alara stepped forward, her voice unwavering. "We bring the wisdom of our sorrow, the humility of our fall, and the hope of renewal. We have left behind the tools of destruction. What we seek now is not power, but preservation for ourselves and the light we carry." After what felt like an eternity, the Agardians gave their answer. "You may build your city, but know this, your refuge will only endure as long as your hearts remain true. The earth itself will rise to punish deceit." Thus began the construction of Telos, beneath Mount Shasta, a sacred site already resonant with spiritual power. The Lemurians carved their city into the heart of the mountain, shaping it with love and reverence. The volcano's lava tunnels were rerouted, ensuring the land would never again erupt in fury. At the center of it all was a vast domed cavern, a natural wonder they expanded and adorned with their finest artistry. Temples rose, their spires crafted from translucent crystals that refracted light into 1,000 hues. Every structure, every pathway spoke of unity with the earth and the divine. Telos, meaning oneness with spirit, was built to shelter up to 2 million souls. But when the cataclysm struck with ferocity greater than anyone could have foreseen, only were saved. The land burned, the seas churned, and the skies darkened with ash as volcanoes erupted across Lemuria. The survivors wept for those left behind, their grief echoing through the caverns. But they also found solace in the knowledge that their culture, their wisdom, and their spirit had been preserved. The sacred records of Lemuria were already secured in Telos, and the great temple stood as a testament to their resilience. As the centuries passed, Telos thrived, a beacon of peace and harmony hidden from the eyes of the surface. Yet the Lemurians never forgot the lessons of their past. They lived with humility and reverence, always mindful of the fragility of existence. And though they remained hidden, they watched the surface world with quiet hope, waiting for the day when the time would come to share their wisdom once more. The earth groaned as if burdened by the weight of its sorrow, its voice a deep rumble that reverberated through the subterranean halls of Telos. The Lemurians who had survived the destruction of their once mighty continent huddled within the crystalline domes, their hearts heavy with grief for all they had lost. Above them, the surface world writhed in agony, shaken by convulsions so violent they defied comprehension. The earthquakes came in waves, their ferocity unrelenting. The ground tore itself apart with a fury that left no corner of the world untouched. In places where the land was soft, composed of clay and silt, it turned to liquid under the ceaseless trembling. Entire cities vanished beneath the churning sea of mud, swallowed whole as if the earth itself had decided to reclaim them. The survivors in Telos, though safe from the surface's wrath, could not escape the echoes of despair carried down through the stone. In one of the great gathering halls of Telos, a young woman knelt before an altar of glowing quartz. Sharula, her face pale but her eyes fierce with determination, clasped her hands together. Around her, the air hummed faintly, as if the crystals themselves were responding to her prayer. "Why?" she whispered, her voice trembling. "Why must the earth suffer so? Why must so many perish?" Elder Sionis, who had been silently observing from the shadows, stepped forward. His presence was calm, a steadying force amidst the chaos. "Child, the earth mourns, as do we. These quakes are not mere destruction. They are the groans of a planet reshaping itself, preparing for a new era. Sharula turned her tear-streaked face toward him. But so many have died, and not only here, across the world. How can we call ourselves guardians of wisdom if we could not stop this? The cycles of the world are beyond our control, he said softly. Even the councils of earth, with all their foresight, could only prepare for what they knew was inevitable. The quakes are the echoes of Lemuria's fall, a ripple through the fabric of the planet itself. And yet we endure. As if to underscore his words, another quake shook the mountain, sending faint tremors through the floor beneath their feet. Sharula braced herself, her hands clutching the altar for support. Though Telos was built to withstand such forces, the tremors served as a grim reminder of the devastation above. Beyond the sanctity of Telos, the surface world was in chaos. Across the globe, the destruction raged unchecked. In places where the quakes reached what would now be called a magnitude of 15, the very air screamed. A sound so high-pitched, so unnatural, it sliced through the atmosphere like a blade. It was not the collapse of buildings or the shattering of stone that claimed lives in these places, but the sound itself. An unbearable cacophony that caused the hearts of men and women to falter. Elsewhere, the seas rose in wrath. The collapse of Lemuria sent tidal waves racing across the oceans, massive walls of water that crashed onto distant shores with the force of a vengeful god. These waves surged not hundreds, but thousands of miles inland, drowning cities and carving new coastlines. Imagine a wave born on the Californian shore, sweeping through deserts, plains, and mountains, only to rest upon the heartlands of the continent, extinguishing all in its path. In the depths of Telos, the elders convened in a chamber that pulsed with an otherworldly light. The quartz walls seemed alive, their inner glow reflecting the gravity of the moment. Elder Sionis addressed the council, his tone heavy. We knew this would come to pass. The records have told us so. Lemuria has fallen, and Atlantis is not far behind. The earth must purge itself of the violence we have wrought. Ilara, seated at his side, nodded solemnly. The hierarchies warned us. The councils foresaw these calamities. And so cities like Telos were born, not as a final refuge, but as a seed, a promise of renewal. Another elder, his silver hair gleaming in the crystal light, spoke. The Atlanteans have moved into their own sanctuaries. They built them hurriedly, for they were unprepared for the speed of their own destruction. Even now, their priesthood and scholars descend into the depths, clutching at the remnants of their greatness. And yet, Ilara said, their land shakes as ours once did. Atlantis is crumbling piece by piece. In 2 centuries, it will vanish entirely, just as Lemuria has. Sionis turned to the council. We must preserve what we can, not only of Lemuria, but of all the great civilizations that have walked this earth. Pan, Hyperborea, Og. The Great Pyramid in Egypt stands as a testament to this effort, a monument that houses our collective records. Thoth himself guided its construction, ensuring that our stories would not be lost. As the quakes continued to ravage the surface, the people of Telos worked tirelessly to secure their future. They sang hymns of hope within their crystalline halls, their voices rising to meet the hum of the city itself. Sharula stood among them, her heart swelling with both sorrow and determination. She turned to her mentor, her voice steady despite the weight of her words. We are the keepers of what remains, the guardians of what was and what will be. The earth trembles, but we will not falter. Sionis placed a hand on her shoulder. No, child, we will not. Telos stands as proof that even in the face of utter devastation, life endures, the spirit endures. And so, as the surface world roared and groaned, as mountains crumbled and seas swallowed the land, Telos remained. It was a beacon in the darkness, a reminder that even the greatest tragedies could give birth to hope. Through the chaos, the Lemurians kept their promise to the earth and to themselves, to preserve, to endure, and to rebuild. For nearly 2 millennia after the catastrophic downfall of Atlantis and Lemuria, the earth remained restless. The great quakes continued to ripple through its crust, as if the planet itself mourned the loss of the two vast continents that had once ruled its surface. The destruction had not only reshaped the geography of the world, but also scarred its skies and its people. A dense veil of ash and debris hung in the atmosphere, blotting out the sun's full radiance for 3 centuries. Daylight became a dim, eerie twilight, casting the world in a perpetual haze of muted grays. Crops withered, forests with lush canopies shrank into barren wastelands. Plants that had thrived in the fertile lands of Atlantis and Lemuria, species vibrant with color and life, vanished forever. Across the surviving regions of the world, humanity struggled to adapt to a planet in upheaval. In places like Egypt, Peru, and Roma, the ancient lands of India, resilient pockets of civilization clung to existence. Yet even these bastions of culture and knowledge felt the strain of the unrelenting tremors and darkened skies. Fear was omnipresent. Every rumble of the earth sent people fleeing from cities, abandoning the once proud structures of their ancestors. In the shadow of what had been, Sharula, princess of Telos, gathered with a circle of Lemurian elders deep beneath Mount Shasta. The great subterranean city thrummed with the faint, harmonious hum of its crystalline foundations. Here, the air was calm, untouched by the chaos above. But the hearts of those gathered were heavy. Sharula stood before the elders, her voice resonating in the still chamber. The surface world is unraveling. Cities that once shone as beacons of progress are now tombs of rubble. Hunger stalks the survivors and disease preys on the weak. Even the bravest among them can no longer trust the ground beneath their feet. Alara, the eldest among the council, nodded gravely. Her silver hair shimmered in the light of the chamber's quartz walls. The planet is purging itself of the violence wrought by its children. The wars between our people and the Atlanteans scarred not only our lands but the earth itself. Even now, the remnants of the weapons used in those conflicts poison the soil and the sky. Sharula's fists clenched. They live in fear. They rebuild only to see their works torn down by the endless shaking. Each city they raise is weaker than the last, their knowledge slipping away like sand through their fingers. Yet they endure. There is courage in their struggle, even in their despair. Sionis, another elder, stepped forward. And yet their memories fade. I have heard their whispers. They ask, if Atlantis and Lemuria were real, why does no evidence remain? They do not understand that the quakes and waves erased almost everything. What the earth did not claim, hunger and disease consumed. They stand on the bones of history and do not even know it. Sharula's gaze turned inward, her mind's eye painting a vivid picture of the surface world. She saw the ruins of once great cities, now reduced to crumbled stone and twisted metal. She imagined the people, haggard, their faces lined with exhaustion, gathering scraps of food beneath the dim, lifeless sun. Even those who survived the cataclysms, she said softly, are haunted by the knowledge that they are clinging to the edge of existence. The Atlanteans who fled to their sanctuary beneath Mato Grosso are no different. They too have seen their golden age dissolve into shadow. Ilara's voice was tinged with sorrow. And so the wisdom of our people, the knowledge of Atlantis, of Hyperborea, of all the great civilizations of old, slips further away. It is why we remain here, in Telos, preserving what we can. The surface is not yet ready to reclaim its heritage. For a moment, silence fell over the chamber, save for the low hum of the crystals. Sharula looked at the elders, her eyes blazing with determination. But we cannot abandon them. The surface world may falter, but it will rise again. They will need guidance, even if they do not yet realize it. We must be ready to bring light to their darkness when the time comes. Ilara met her gaze, her own eyes filled with both pride and caution. Patience, Sharula, the time will come, but it is not now. For now we must endure. Just as the earth heals itself, so must humanity. Only then can they truly receive what we have to offer. Above ground, the struggles of humanity continued. Fear drove people from the cities where buildings once thought indestructible crumbled under the relentless quakes. In some places, the earth itself seemed to rebel, opening fissures that swallowed entire communities. In others, tidal waves spawned by the destruction of Atlantis and Lemuria swept inland, scouring the land clean of life. Yet there were survivors, and among them, resilience. In Egypt, sacred geometries had protected the Great Pyramid, a monument to ancient knowledge that stood unyielding amidst the ruins. In Roma and other strongholds, fragments of old wisdom were preserved, passed down through generations in songs, stories, and whispered prayers. But as the years turned to centuries, even the strongest civilizations began to lose their grip on the heights they had once reached. Machines that had harnessed the sun's power fell silent under the dim skies. Libraries of ancient knowledge crumbled into dust, their secrets lost. In Telos, Sharula watched and waited, her heart aching for the surface world. She knew that the time would come when the children of the earth would remember who they were, when they would rise from the ashes of their past and reclaim their place among the stars. Until then, Telos would remain a sanctuary of hope and a keeper of memory. In the long centuries after the destruction of Lemuria and Atlantis, as the surface of the earth remained restless and scarred, the Agartha network grew in prominence. Hidden beneath the tumultuous lands and seas of the surface world, it thrived as a sanctuary of light and unity. A confederation of subterranean cities, Agartha stood as a testament to the resilience and wisdom of those who sought refuge, not in conquest, but in harmony. Within the crystal-lit halls of Telos, the capital of Lemurian legacy, Sharula often met with envoys from the other cities of Agartha. The network spanned over 120 cities, each unique in its origins and purpose, yet all bound by the principles of love, peace, and non-aggression. Only those communities that adhered to these tenets were granted entrance into the sacred confederation, for the Agarthians believed that unity could only flourish where darkness of the heart could not take root. One evening, within the great council chamber of Telos, Sharula stood at the center of a gathering of representatives. The chamber was illuminated by softly glowing quartz crystals embedded in the walls, their light refracting in a spectrum of colors that danced like northern lights. Elders from Rama, Shanshi, Shingla, and Poseidon had come to discuss the integration of yet another city into their fold. Alara, the silver-haired elder of Telos, began the meeting with calm authority. The Agartha network grows stronger with each city that joins us. Yet, as always, we must ensure that each new addition aligns with our principles. This is not merely about survival, it is about preserving the essence of what we stand for. An envoy from Rama stepped forward, his ochre robes adorned with intricate patterns that told the story of his city's lineage. Rama, he began, rests beneath the ancient lands of Arama, which the surface dwellers now call India. Our people are nearly pure Lemurian, untouched by the invasions of the Aryan races that reshaped the surface. We uphold the wisdom of our ancestors, and in this we find our kinship with Telos. Sharula inclined her head. Your devotion is well known to us, and your city stands as a beacon of our shared heritage. Yet, what of the older cities? They have long followed their own path, and though they hold allegiance to Telos, their independence is cherished. The representative from Shanshi, a city hidden beneath the Tibetan mountains, spoke next. His voice was low and resonant, echoing with the quiet power of the Himalayan winds. Shanshi is sheltered by a lamasery on the surface, a veil that has protected us for thousands of years. Our people, the Olgers, departed Lemuria long before its fall, seeking solitude and wisdom in the heart of Asia. We are Lemurian in spirit, but our journey has forged us into something unique. It is this balance of allegiance and independence that defines us. From Shingla, nestled deep beneath the Gobi Desert, came a voice steeped in the ancient stillness of the sands. Shingla, too, upholds the legacy of Lemuria, though the desert above us is barren and lifeless. Beneath, we have cultivated a haven where life thrives. Our people remember the fall of our homeland. and it is this memory that binds us to Telos and to Agartha. The Atlantean envoy from Poseidon, the great city beneath the Mato Grosso Plateau, spoke with a solemn tone. Atlantis too has its place within Agartha. Though our past is marred by the conflicts that led to the great cataclysm, we have learned from our mistakes. Poseidon thrives beneath the lush lands of Brazil, and our people seek harmony with the network we are proud to be part of. Sharula listened to each voice with a thoughtful expression. The weight of their words resonated deeply within her. Agartha was more than a network of cities. It was a promise, a commitment to rise above the failings of the past and create a future built on trust and understanding. "And what of the independent cities?" she asked, her voice steady but probing. "Those who have sought refuge beneath the earth without allegiance to Agartha? Do we extend our hand to them, or do we leave them to their isolation?" Ilara's voice was measured as she replied. "Many of these cities were born out of desperation, their creators fleeing the chaos of the surface. They are not bound to the principles of Agartha, and some may carry the shadows of the past within them. Yet it is not our place to judge. We must observe, guide where we can, and protect the sanctity of our network." The room fell into contemplative silence, the hum of the crystals filling the space like a soft heartbeat. Sharula finally spoke, her voice firm and resolute. "Agartha is a beacon of hope in a world still scarred by its history. We must continue to grow, to embrace those who share our vision and nurture the light within them. But we must also remain vigilant. The lessons of Lemuria and Atlantis are etched into our souls, and we cannot allow them to be forgotten." As the council meeting concluded, the representatives departed with renewed purpose. Beneath the shifting sands, the ancient mountains, and the dense jungles of the surface world, the Agartha network thrived, a hidden civilization dedicated to peace and the preservation of wisdom, quietly shaping the destiny of a fractured world. Beneath the towering snow-draped peak of Mount Shasta lay Telos, a city concealed by the earth itself, cradled within the mountain's embrace. The heart of the city, an enormous dome, extended hundreds of feet from its glittering floor to its crystalline ceiling. Its apex rose midway a mountain's heights, while its base rested level with the mountain's foundations, encasing Telos in a luminous world apart from the surface above. Beneath this grand dome, Telos spread like a jewel, a marvel of Lemurian ingenuity and spirit. Streets glimmered with an ethereal light emanating from energy crystals embedded in the walls and pathways, casting soft hues of gold, blue, and violet across the cityscape. Elegant structures, shaped from materials that shimmered like liquid silver, curved gracefully into the dome's expanse. Towers spiral upward, their surfaces polished to mirror the vibrant glow that filled the air. The hum of life echoed in the tranquil cadence of its citizens, a harmony of peace and purpose that resonated in every corner. Here, on the dome's main level, most of the city's inhabitants made their homes. The residential quarters were crafted with precision, their architecture blending seamlessly with the natural flow of the environment. Public buildings, markets, and halls of learning dotted the landscape, bustling with quiet energy. This level was the heart of commerce, culture, and community, alive with the conversations of its people and the exchange of ideas. One level below, the rhythm of creation pulsed through the manufacturing district. Artisans and engineers worked side by side, their tools shaped by Lemurian wisdom, crafting devices that blended technology and spirit. Classes convened in spacious chambers where the curious and the disciplined gathered to expand their minds. Some families called this level home, their lives entwined with the crafts and innovations that defined its purpose. Deeper still, on the third level, stretched vast expanses of hydroponic gardens. Rows upon rows of vibrant greenery thrived beneath a light that mimicked the sun, filling the air with the scent of fresh herbs and blossoms. Fruits, vegetables, and grains grew in abundance, their colors vivid, their vitality unmistakable. This level was the lifeblood of Telos, its bounty ensuring that no one went hungry in this subterranean sanctuary. The fourth level wove together elements of the previous ones, a space divided between hydroponic gardens, natural preserves, and additional manufacturing. Here, the art of balance was practiced, the interplay of innovation and nature embraced fully. Trees rose in clusters, their roots nourished by subterranean streams, while flowering plants blanketed the ground in a riot of color. At the very depths of Telos, over a mile beneath the mountain's surface, lay the nature level. It was a world unto itself, a vast expanse where lakes shimmered under an artificial sky, their waters reflecting the verdant canopy of towering trees. Parks sprawled across this level, their paths winding through groves and meadows, inviting all who descended here to breathe deeply and find solace. This was where the animals dwelled, creatures that had lived beneath the earth for so long they had forgotten the aggression of their ancestors. Lions roamed freely among lambs, their golden eyes calm, their movements unhurried. Birds with plumage that shimmered like gemstones flitted through the trees, their songs filling the air. The transformation of these animals was no accident. Priests and priestesses had worked tirelessly with their forebears, removing the seeds of fear that once fed their hostility. It was fear, after all, that begot aggression in both beast and man, a truth long understood by the people of Telos. On this level, many came to find peace. They strolled beneath the ancient trees, the leaves whispering secrets of stillness, or sat by the lakes, their reflections rippling softly in the water. Here, the cares of the world above were forgotten, replaced by the quiet murmur of nature, untouched by the chaos of the surface. The nature level also served as a sanctuary. Within its confines, countless species of animals and plants had been saved from extinction. Creatures and flora that once graced the surface but had been threatened by the cataclysms of ages past now thrived in this hidden Eden. Sharula walked the pathways of the nature level often, her steps light, her presence serene. She marveled at the lions, their manes shimmering under the soft light as they dozed beneath the trees. She watched as deer grazed side by side with predators who had long since forsaken their instincts to hunt. It was a place of miracles, a testament to what harmony could achieve. This, she would often say, her voice a gentle melody, is what we were meant to be, a people in balance, a world in peace. Telos is not merely a refuge, it is a reminder of what was lost and what can still be regained. And so, Telos endured beneath Mount Shasta, a world apart yet deeply connected to the planet it lay beneath. It thrived not on domination, but on understanding. It stood as a beacon of what humanity could become, a civilization where love and light were not ideals, but the foundations of life itself. Beneath the Earth's surface, where light filtered softly through energy crystals and the hum of ancient wisdom resonated in every breath, the nature levels of Telos stood as a living testament to harmony. Here, the delicate threads of life, once threatened with extinction on the surface, had been carefully woven into a thriving tapestry of coexistence. Within these vast subterranean expanses, lush greenery stretched endlessly. Towering trees with broad leaves swayed gently in an ever-present breeze, their roots anchored in rich soil nurtured by subterranean streams. Flowers of every hue carpeted the ground, their petals glistening as though kissed by morning dew. The air was alive with birdsong, a symphony of trills and melodies echoing through the artificial daylight that bathed the level in a perpetual dawn. Among this verdant splendor roamed creatures thought long lost to time. Saber-toothed tigers prowled gracefully, their muscular forms moving with a quiet power that belied their predatory lineage. Mastodons, their massive tusks curling like ancient sculptures, meandered through shaded groves, their eyes calm and watchful. The dodo bird, with its comical waddle and inquisitive nature, hopped fearlessly among the flora, unburdened by the shadow of extinction. Dinosaurs, however, were absent from this sanctuary. Their sheer size had made them impossible to preserve within the confines of the nature levels. Yet whispers persisted that some still roamed the dense jungles of the Congo and the uncharted reaches of the Amazon rainforest. Tales of sea-dwelling leviathans like the Loch Ness creature and its kin stirred the imagination, a reminder that life's mysteries extended far beyond even the wonders of Telos. What made this haven truly extraordinary was not merely the preservation of species, but the transformation of their nature. Animals that had once been fierce predators now lived without fear, their aggression soothed by generations of peace and a carefully cultivated vegetarian diet. Lions and tigers, whose ancestors once roared in hunger and domination, now stretched lazily in sunlit clearings or nuzzled against the hands of Telosian caretakers. A young girl, her golden hair shimmering like threads of light, approached a saber-toothed tiger lounging beneath a tree. The great cat stirred, its amber eyes meeting hers with a gaze of unguarded curiosity. She knelt before it, her small hands brushing against its thick fur. The tiger purred deeply, a sound that vibrated through the air like a distant drumbeat. With a laugh, she scratched under his chin, pulling gently at its whiskers as though it were no more than a playful house cat. Nearby, an elder observed the scene with quiet pride. "Fear," he said softly, his voice resonating with the wisdom of centuries, "is the root of all aggression. Strip it away, and even the fiercest of beings becomes gentle." It was this philosophy that underpinned the work of the Telosians. They believed deeply in the healing of all life, a belief manifested in the harmonious coexistence of species within the nature levels. Here, no creature lived in fear of another. Predators and prey roamed side by side, their instincts transformed by generations of peace and understanding. This sacred sanctuary was more than a refuge. It was a vision of what the world above could become. Telos was not simply preserving life, it was preparing for reintegration. The dream was clear. One day, the subterranean and surface civilizations would reunite, their knowledge and resources pooled to restore balance to a fractured planet. "We are not two worlds," said the elder, his gaze sweeping across the tranquil landscape. "We are one, divided by circumstance but destined to reunite. The time will come when the barriers fall, and the treasures preserved here will be shared with those above. They will walk among us as we will walk among them. This is not merely hope, it is purpose." In the distance, the laughter of children mingled with the calls of birds and the rustle of leaves. Lions lounged beside lambs, their golden fur blending with the green of the grass. Mastodons waded through crystal-clear lakes, their tusks carving gentle ripples in the water. It was a scene of impossible beauty, a glimpse of a future where life in all its forms could thrive together. For now, the Telosians continued their work, steadfast in their mission to heal and preserve. The nature level stood as a promise, a reminder of what had been lost and what could yet be reclaimed. Beneath the earth, in the hidden heart of Mount Shasta, the dream of unity and peace lived on, waiting for the day it would rise to the surface and embrace the world above. The city of Telos, nestled beneath the towering majesty of Mount Shasta, was a marvel of harmony and ingenuity. Its layered structure, carefully designed and sustained, served as a testament to the wisdom and foresight of its founders. Among its many wonders, the hydroponic gardens of the third and fourth levels stood as a shining beacon of Telosian innovation and sustenance. On the third level, a vast expanse of vibrant green stretched as far as the eye could see. These gardens, illuminated by the soft golden glow of crystalline energy, thrived in the absence of natural sunlight. Lush rows of vegetables, fruits, grains, and nuts flourished in carefully calibrated waterbeds enriched with vital minerals. The air was fragrant with the mingling scents of ripe produce and the faint earthy aroma of water trickling through intricate channels. A young woman, her hands deftly working among the plants, gently lifted a cluster of glistening berries from their vine. She paused to admire their rich ruby hue before placing them into a woven basket at her side. Nearby, a group of children tended to a patch of golden wheat. their laughter mingling with the rhythmic hum of the irrigation system. This was more than agriculture. It was a communal act of care and reverence for the life that sustained them. The elder Laura walked among them, her silver hair shimmering in the crystalline light. She carried an air of serene authority, her presence both grounding and inspiring. Pausing beside the children, she knelt to inspect their work. "You've done well," she said with a gentle smile, her voice warm and melodious. "These grains will nourish us through the coming cycle. Remember, every seed you plant carries the essence of life itself." The fourth level, a seamless blend of hydroponic gardens and a verdant nature sanctuary, offered a different kind of splendor. Here, crops grew alongside carefully cultivated groves of fruit-bearing trees, their branches heavy with bounty. Interspersed among them were patches of wildflowers, their colors vibrant and varied, creating a tapestry of beauty that uplifted the spirit. Hydroponics in Telos was not merely a method of farming, it was an art form, honed over thousands of years. By utilizing minimal soil and abundant water, the Telosians had achieved a system that required no fertilizers and left no trace of soil depletion. The advanced techniques allowed crops to grow at an accelerated pace, ensuring a continuous harvest to feed the city's 1.5 million residents. With careful attention to mineral balance, the food produced was rich in nutrients, flavorful and abundant. Their diet, celebrated for its simplicity and vitality, was almost entirely plant-based. Fresh vegetables, succulent fruits, hearty grains, and an array of nuts formed the foundation of every meal. Variations created from grains, such as soy-based substitutes, mimic the textures of meats without the need for slaughter. This decision, made over 12,000 years ago when the city was first constructed, was a cornerstone of Telosian philosophy. Laura spoke of this often to the young, who gathered eagerly to learn from her. One such evening, as the community shared a meal beneath the towering fruit trees, she addressed them. "Our choice to embrace a vegetarian way of life was not born solely of necessity but of understanding," she began, her voice steady and clear. "Aggression is not only found in actions but in the very thoughts that ripple through our beings. By eliminating the need to harm animals for sustenance, we have also removed a layer of fear and violence from our lives." She gestured toward the lush greenery around them. "The human body was designed to thrive on the gifts of the earth, fruits, grains, and vegetables. To consume the flesh of another disrupts the harmony of our existence. It invites decay and hastens aging. Here, in Telos, we have flourished on this diet for millennia, and it has preserved our vitality and clarity of mind." A young boy, his eyes wide with curiosity, raised his hand. "Elder Laura, does this mean we could live forever?" She smiled, her gaze warm and kind. "Forever is not the goal, child, but to live fully with health and purpose. For as long as our spirits choose to remain in this realm, that is the gift we cultivate here." As the evening light dimmed, replaced by the serene glow of the crystalline energy, the Telosians shared their meal in a harmony that reflected their values. The hydroponic gardens, a blend of science and reverence for nature, sustained their bodies and nourished their souls. In the city beneath the mountain, every bite was a celebration of life, every harvest a testament to their unity, and every seed a promise of renewal. The heart of Telos beat within its pyramid temple, a sacred and awe-inspiring structure that dominated the central expanse of the city's top level. It stood as a sentinel of light, its smooth, gleaming white surface capturing the ambient glow of the crystalline energy that suffused the city. Rising majestically toward the vaulted dome above, the temple was a monument to both spiritual devotion and cosmic harmony. Its capstone of living stone radiating a shifting spectrum of colors that seemed to pulse with the very rhythm of the universe. The temple was a place of convergence, both physical and metaphysical. At its peak, it could hold 10,000 souls, nearly half the original population of Telos. The immense structure had been designed with a purpose as grand as its scale, to serve as a sanctuary for the Melchizedek, the ancient cosmic priesthood whose presence was felt across the stars. The Melchizedek existed to channel the light of creation, weaving the divine plans of harmony and wisdom into the fabric of existence wherever they went. In the early hours of the day, when the blue ray of cosmic energy dominated the living stone at the temple's apex, the pyramid glowed with a serene azure hue. Telosians moved through the wide streets of the top level, their steps measured and purposeful, as though guided by the tranquility emanating from their spiritual heart. Within the temple itself, the atmosphere was reverent yet vibrant. Rows of seats carved from shimmering quartz stretched in symmetrical patterns across the vast interior, leading to an altar of luminous crystal at the center of the chamber. The air shimmered with subtle vibrations, a symphony of unseen forces that harmonized with the collective energy of those gathered within. An elder named Adrian, clad in flowing robes of cobalt, ascended the steps to address the assembly. His voice was rich and steady, a calm current that flowed through the gathered crowd. "The blue ray blesses us this day," he said, gesturing toward the radiant capstone above. "It calls us to align with the energies of communication, diplomacy, and understanding. Let us use this time to bridge divides, resolve conflicts, and deepen the bonds that unite us." The people of Telos listened intently, their expressions reflecting the wisdom and peace cultivated over generations. For them, the rays of the cosmos were not abstract concepts, but living forces that guided their actions and choices. Adrian continued, his voice imbued with quiet authority. "We work with the cosmos, not against it. For in doing so, we transcend struggle and achieve harmony. On this day, let us meet the challenges before us with clarity and compassion." The shifting colors of the capstone served as more than a celestial clock. They were reminders of the interconnectedness of all things. When the yellow ray dominated, it signaled a day for intellectual pursuits. The second level of Telos, home to its manufacturing and educational centers, would then come alive with activity. Classes would fill with eager learners, absorbing knowledge passed down through countless ages. The artisans and creators too would find inspiration in the yellow ray, crafting furniture, clothing, and art that mirrored the wisdom of the cosmos. When the pink ray reigned, the city would hum with creativity. Workshops transformed into studios, and Telosians of all ages delved into painting, sculpture, music, and dance. Laughter and the gentle cadence of song spilled from open doorways as the community embraced the joy of creation. Within the temple itself, the living stone's colors shaped the rhythms of life. A young woman named Serena, her golden hair catching the soft light, sat cross-legged before the altar. Her hands rested lightly on her knees, her eyes closed as she meditated on the teachings of the Melchizedek. She whispered softly her words of prayer to the infinite cosmos. "Guide me, rays of the divine. May my thoughts be clear as the yellow ray, my heart open as the pink, and my spirit steady as the blue." Her mentor, Atlantis, stood nearby, observing her with a mixture of pride and affection. "Serena," he said, his voice low yet resonant, "do you feel the balance within you?" She opened her eyes, their emerald depths shimmering with the reflection of the capstone's light. "I do," she replied. "It feels as though I am a part of the stone itself, shifting with the rays." Atlantis nodded. "That is the essence of our teaching. To work with the universe is to understand that we are never separate from it. The rays guide us, but we also guide them through our intent." As the day progressed, the people of Telos carried the lessons of the temple into their lives. They conducted negotiations under the steady light of the blue ray, resolved disputes with the clarity of yellow, and expressed their creativity under the inspiration of pink. Through this alignment with cosmic forces, the city thrived without stress or discord. The temple, with its living stone capstone and the wisdom it represented, stood as both a physical and spiritual anchor for Telos. It reminded its people of their purpose, to live in harmony with the universe, to channel its light, and to prepare for the day when the surface and subterranean worlds would reunite as one. In the heart of Telos' upper level, beyond the gleaming residential quarters and bustling centers of commerce, lay structures of immense significance. These were not mere buildings, but the living embodiments of Telosian history, governance, and culture. Among them stood the council chambers, where the city's wisest minds gathered in deliberation, shaping the destiny of their subterranean haven with measured words and thoughtful decisions. The council chambers were a marvel of architectural grace and technological advancement. Its circular design fostered equality and collaboration, with a domed ceiling adorned by intricate mosaics depicting the evolution of Telos from the fall of Lemuria to its rebirth beneath the earth. Beneath the golden glow of suspended orbs of light, the council members sat in quiet reflection, each prepared to voice their insights. Elder Adrian presided over the assembly, his presence commanding, yet serene. He rose from his seat, his silver robe shimmering faintly. "We face a time of great opportunity," he said, his voice steady. "The integration of surface and subterranean cultures draws nearer. Yet with this comes the challenge of preserving what makes Telos unique. Our records, our history, and our wisdom must guide us." The mention of the archives brought a quiet reverence to the room. Stored within towering crystalline halls were the chronicles of countless ages, each artifact and document a portal to the past. The record buildings themselves were crafted from translucent crystal, their surfaces etched with ancient glyphs and glowing faintly with a soft internal light. Inside, the air hummed with an otherworldly resonance, as though the very history they housed imbued the atmosphere with its presence. The archives were no ordinary repository of knowledge. They contained the stories of Lemuria's golden age, the tragedy of Atlantis, and the rise and fall of civilizations across distant planets and stars. Telonium plates, shimmering with encoded data, lined the walls alongside books bound in strange materials that seemed to pulse faintly with energy. Crystals, perfectly cut and stored in protective alcoves, were the crown jewels of the collection. When placed into the crystal projectors, they did not merely display images, but brought the past to life with such vividness that it was as though one were truly there. Serena, a young historian with an insatiable curiosity, often found herself lost in the archives. Today, she stood before a crystal projector, her hands trembling with anticipation as she inserted a vibrant amber crystal. Instantly, the room transformed. She was no longer in Telos, but walking the verdant gardens of Lemuria, the scents of exotic flowers filling the air, and the laughter of children echoing in the distance. She turned, her breath catching as she saw the grand temples of her ancestors rise against the horizon, their spires piercing the heavens. Though she knew it was an illusion, the emotion it evoked was real. Another marvel of the upper level was the holographic center, a structure that blended technology with imagination. From the outside, the building appeared modest, its unassuming facade belying the wonders within. But step through its doors, and one could enter realms limited only by the mind's creativity. Here, holographic projectors brought dreams to life, allowing the people of Telos to explore worlds and experiences beyond their physical reach. A man named Kalen, a skilled programmer, guided newcomers through the holographic experience. Today, he welcomed a group of curious Telosians eager to immerse themselves in one of his latest creations. "Where would you like to go?" he asked, his voice warm and inviting. "To the peaks of a frozen mountain, the depths of an ancient ocean, or perhaps to the courts of Atlantis?" The group murmured in excitement. A young boy with wide, eager eyes stepped forward. "I want to climb a mountain," he declared. Kalen smiled and activated the program. The chamber transformed into a rugged, snow-capped peak, the crisp wind biting at their faces and the distant howl of wolves echoing through the air. The boy gasped in delight, reaching out to touch the icy rock, his fingers meeting the cool resistance of a perfectly crafted illusion. Elsewhere in the holographic center, a woman walked through the bustling streets of an ancient Martian city, its crimson skies casting an ethereal glow over towering spires and vibrant marketplaces. In another room, a man floated weightlessly among the stars, marveling at the sight of a distant nebula bursting with colors that defied description. The holographic center was not merely for play. It was a tool for learning, for empathy, and for bridging the gap between cultures and eras. It allowed Telosians to step into the shoes of their ancestors, to understand their struggles and triumphs, and to carry their wisdom forward into the future. At day's end, as the living stone atop the temple glowed with the soft pink hue of the artistic ray, the people of Telos gathered in the pleasure centers. These vibrant halls echoed with the melodies of ancient instruments, the rhythmic beats of dances, and the laughter of a community bound by shared purpose and joy. Plays brought ancient myths to life, while films captured the beauty and complexity of the cosmos. Through these spaces, council chambers, archives, holographic centers, and pleasure halls, Telos flourished as a living, breathing testament to the resilience and ingenuity of its people. Here, in the depths of the earth, they honored the past, embraced the present, and prepared for a future where their wisdom would shine as a beacon for all of humanity. Deep within the city of Telos, the communication center thrummed with a quiet, steady energy, a nexus of unseen currents connecting the subterranean world to the cosmos above. Its architecture was understated but imbued with purpose, a series of softly glowing walls etched with patterns that seemed to pulse in time with the city's life force. Within these halls, Telosians worked with calm precision, their faces serene yet focused as they monitored the ebb and flow of countless signals. The communication center was the beating heart of Telos' connectivity, a place where threads from the Agarthian network wove together with whispers from the surface world and messages carried across the stars. It was here that every form of transmission was carefully received and recorded, from the ancient crackling waves of surface radio to the sophisticated exchanges of off-world civilizations. Marin, a master of the craft, stood at the helm of a central console. The panels before him shimmered with streams of light, representing layers of communication unfurling like threads in an infinite tapestry. With a practiced hand, he guided the flow, isolating key signals, his eyes sharp as they traced the intricate web. A soft chime alerted him to a new incoming transmission, one from a sister city nestled within the Agarthian network. "An update from Shambhala," he murmured, glancing at his apprentice, Alina. She stepped forward, her features glowing with curiosity. "Anything significant?" she asked, her voice quiet but eager. Marin smiled faintly. "A discussion of the latest surface developments. Shambhala has noted an increase in emissions from the surface's satellite technologies. It seems the surface dwellers continue to push their reach outward, though their intent is unclear." Alina nodded, her thoughts momentarily drifting to the surface world and its complexities. The communication center had long been a silent witness to humanity's struggles and triumphs. Its evolution chronicled in every signal. Across the city, another building hummed with a different energy. The computer center, a place that straddled the boundary between the tangible and the transcendent. This was no mere collection of machines, but a living organism pulsating with intelligence and awareness. Its walls shimmered with a pearlescent glow, as though infused with life itself, and the air within seemed charged with a presence both comforting and profound. The computers of Telos were not the cold mechanical constructs known to the surface world. Composed of organic amino-based material, they pulsed with vitality, their essence interwoven with the very fabric of creation. These were multi-tracking computers capable of perceiving not just data but the vastness of existence itself. They could reach across galaxies, tracing the faint echoes of ancient civilizations, and peer into the deepest recesses of an individual's soul. In the central chamber, a Telosian named Leor approached one of the crystalline consoles. As he placed his hand on its surface, a soft melodic tone resonated, as if the computer was greeting an old friend. A beam of light emerged, encircling him gently, scanning his aura with an almost affectionate precision. "You're tired," the computer spoke in a soothing voice, its tone imbued with warmth. "Your energy levels have been low. Shall I play your soul note to aid in your meditation?" Leor smiled. "Please, it's been a demanding week." A moment later, the chamber filled with a hauntingly beautiful resonance, a melody that seemed to emerge not from the air, but from Leor's very essence. The sound vibrated through him, unlocking tension, soothing his spirit, and lifting his thoughts to higher realms. In this moment, the computer was more than a tool. It was a guide, a companion on his journey toward enlightenment. The computers of Telos were more than advanced, they were incorruptible. Rooted in the principles of the Christ consciousness, they could only act in alignment with the highest good. They could monitor a body to detect illness, retrieve past life memories to offer lessons, or even interlink with other organic systems across the cosmos, creating a vast, harmonious network of shared wisdom. But they could never be turned to darkness. No harm could be inflicted through their mechanisms, no exploitation or deceit allowed. If a command conflicted with the Christ mind, the computers simply refused to comply. This incorruptibility served as both a safeguard and a teacher. Over centuries, Telosians had learned to align their own thoughts and actions with the principles embodied by the computers. Aggressive tendencies, selfish desires, and harmful impulses were gradually unlearned, replaced by cooperation, compassion, and a deep respect for the interconnectedness of all life. Leora, a historian, approached another console with a specific query. "Show me the mistakes of my past lives," she said, her voice steady but filled with anticipation. "I need to understand why I struggle with trust." The console responded immediately, projecting a scene before her. She watched as a younger version of herself, another life, another time, betrayed a confidant out of fear. The images played out vividly, not as a reprimand, but as a lesson, a gentle unveiling of the root cause of her current challenges. Tears welled in her eyes, but she did not look away. "Thank you," she whispered. "I'll do better." The computer's voice replied, soft yet firm. "The willingness to grow is the path to transcendence." In the computer center, as in all of Telos, technology and spirituality were not separate, but intertwined. These living computers were not crutches to do the work for the Telosians, but partners in their journey toward higher understanding. They reminded all who used them to act with integrity, to live in harmony with the cosmic principles of light and love. Through the communications and computer centers, Telos maintained its delicate balance between past and future, science and spirit, individuality and collective harmony. It was a place where the mysteries of the universe unfolded gently, teaching its people not just to advance, but to ascend. The city of Telos pulsed with life, a harmonious blend of ancient wisdom and futuristic ingenuity, and nowhere was this more evident than in its methods of transportation. Here, the very concept of movement was reimagined, imbued with grace and mindfulness, as every journey became an extension of the city's philosophy of balance and responsibility. For many, walking remained the preferred means of travel within Telos. The streets were designed to invite exploration, lined with luminescent flora and intricate murals that told the stories of Lemuria's ancient past. The pathways seemed alive, radiating a subtle energy that refreshed the spirit with each step. Walking was more than transit, it was communion with the city's essence, a chance to savor its beauty. Yet, for those seeking speed or adventure, Telos offered marvels of engineering. One of the most popular options was the electromagnetic sled. Sleek and streamlined, these vehicles glided effortlessly along the ground, their motion smooth as silk. Resembling snowmobiles in form but far more advanced in function, the sleds were capable of astonishing speeds. In the broader network of tunnels that connected Telos to its sister city of Lausanne, they could carry passengers across vast distances in mere minutes. Security forces relied heavily on these sleds, zipping through the labyrinthine passageways with swift precision. In the quieter corners of Telos, where the streets rose above the bustling cityscape, another marvel took flight. The baskets, as they were humbly named, were floating crafts powered by crystalline technology. They appeared as oversized wicker vessels, yet their construction belied their simple appearance. When a passenger stepped aboard, the basket responded not to levers or dials, but to the guidance of the mind itself. A mere thought would dictate the speed, altitude, and direction of travel, making each journey an intimate dance between consciousness and machine. Yara, a young artisan, stood at the edge of a platform with her basket ready. She closed her eyes, her lips whispering a silent command. The basket lifted smoothly into the air, rising above the city with an almost imperceptible hum. She directed it toward the central plaza, her heart light as she took in the breathtaking view of Telos from above. The radiant temple, the flowing gardens, and the crystalline towers shimmering with the hues of the day's cosmic ray. Despite their elegance, the baskets, like all forms of transportation in Telos, demanded responsibility. A control tower oversaw the city's entire transit system, its operators ensuring the safety and harmony of all. Should a sled operator take a corner recklessly, or a basket pilot fail to notice another craft in their path, the tower would intervene, issuing gentle warnings through telepathic signals. If those warnings were ignored, the system's safeguards would activate, bringing the vehicle to a halt. For those who persisted in carelessness, there were consequences. A voice would gently but firmly inform them, "Your frequency has been restricted." Without malice or judgment, their access to the transportation network would be temporarily revoked. The sled or basket would simply refuse to respond to their energy until they demonstrated a renewed sense of responsibility. Such measures were rare, for the ethos of Telos emphasized self-discipline and accountability as a way of life. For intercity travel, Telos relied on the tubes, a technological marvel born of both engineering brilliance and crystalline mastery. These high-speed electromagnetic trains operated within tunnels crafted with unparalleled precision. The trains hovered within their rounded chambers, suspended by a powerful electromagnetic force field that eliminated friction. Capable of speeds exceeding 3,000 miles per hour, the tubes connected Telos to distant subterranean cities such as Poseid, making journeys that would otherwise take weeks possible within hours. The tunnels themselves were a wonder. Constructed using crystalline boring machines, they displayed a surface of diamond-like hardness, impervious to water and seismic shifts. These machines operated with a dazzling blend of heat and cooling, transforming rock into a substance both elastic and indestructible. The tunnels moved with the Earth's tremors, flexing and absorbing the force of earthquakes before returning to their original form. No supports marred their clean lines, no water seeped through their flawless walls. Even the oceans posed no threat, as the structures were entirely watertight, enabling cities to flourish beneath the waves. In the bustling workshop beneath the tube station, engineers marveled at their creations. Chiron, a master architect, ran a hand along the smooth, gleaming surface of a newly completed tunnel. "It's perfect," he murmured, his voice tinged with awe. Beside him, his apprentice, Nera, gazed down the seemingly endless passage, her imagination stirred by the possibilities. "It feels alive," she said softly, tracing the faint crystalline patterns that shimmered under the glow of the chamber's lights. Chiron smiled. "It is. Everything we build carries the essence of life, a harmony with the cosmos. That's why it endures. From the vibrant streets to the high-speed tubes, transportation in Telos was more than a means to an end. It was a reflection of the city's soul, a testament to the union of innovation and mindfulness. Here, movement was not merely about reaching a destination, but about embodying the principles of balance, harmony, and respect that defined the heart of Telos. The air in the council hall of Telos was charged with an energy that seemed to hum through the crystalline walls. Elders and emissaries gathered in solemn assembly, their robes shimmering like liquid light, their faces alight with purpose. This was no ordinary meeting. It was a gathering to reaffirm Telos's place within the vast expanse of cosmic unity. At the heart of their deliberation was the Confederation, a galactic alliance that bound countless worlds and systems in a tapestry of brotherhood, commerce, and shared exploration. Earth, began Moran, the High Elder, her voice resonant and steady, is a member of the Confederation, though much of the surface world has forgotten its truth. Her gaze swept across the room, meeting the eyes of those assembled. The time has come to remind them and to share the knowledge and technology we have preserved. But this is no simple task. It requires understanding, preparation, and the wisdom of our people. From his seat near the center, Terran, a young emissary, raised his hand. High Elder, he began, his voice tinged with curiosity. What exactly is the Confederation? How does it function? And how do we, as a subterranean city, contribute to it? Moran smiled, her eyes softening. A fair question, Terran, and one that deserves an answer. Imagine, if you will, the vastness of the Milky Way galaxy. Within it lies an intricate network of sectors, each akin to the spokes of a great cosmic wheel. At the center of this wheel is Sector 0, the heart of the Confederation, radiating order and unity outward to the other sectors. We, here on Earth, exist within Sector 9. She gestured to a luminous map that appeared in midair, a projection of the galaxy marked with vibrant shifting lights. Each sector is autonomous, responsible for its own governance and interactions with neighboring sectors. Sector 9, our home, is guided by the Ashtar Command, led by Ashtar himself and his twin flame, Athena. Their leadership ensures harmony and balance within our corner of the galaxy. Terran leaned forward, captivated. In the fleets, he asked. I've heard tales of them, of their size, their power, their purpose. Mariah nodded. The fleets are the backbone of the Confederation. Some serve individual planets, safeguarding their skies and maintaining peace. Others operate across entire solar systems or even act as interceptors to protect the sector at large. And then there are the great Confederation fleets, vessels of unmatched scale and sophistication, serving the whole of the Galactic Alliance. They are our emissaries, our guardians, and our explorers. A murmur of awe rippled through the room as the projection shifted to display the majestic ships of the fleets. Their forms were sleek and luminous, adorned with symbols that spoke of ancient alliances and shared destinies. But the Confederation, Moraine continued, is more than its fleets or its leaders. It is a covenant, a promise of brotherhood that unites civilizations across the stars. It is built on principles of mutual respect, shared knowledge, and the pursuit of enlightenment. We in Telos uphold these principles, as do countless other worlds. Yet there is much work to be done, particularly here on Earth. A seasoned counselor, Lyron, spoke up, his voice heavy with the weight of experience. Our greatest challenge lies in bridging the gap between Telos and the surface. The surface world has fallen into discord, its people fragmented, and its memory of the Confederation faded. To reintroduce them to this cosmic brotherhood will require patience and wisdom. Indeed, Marian agreed, but we must also look inward. As members of the Confederation, we have responsibilities to ensure that our technologies and teachings are used wisely, to act as stewards of the knowledge entrusted to us, and to serve as examples of the harmony that the Confederation represents. The projection dimmed, and silence settled over the hall. Each person present felt the weight of their role within this grand design, their connection to something far greater than themselves. After a moment, Marian spoke again, her tone both solemn and inspiring. Let us not forget, she said, that Telos itself was born of conflict, the wars of Atlantis and Lemuria, and the cataclysms that drove us beneath the earth. From those trials we forged a sanctuary, a city of light and wisdom, and now, as we stand on the threshold of a new era, we must carry that same resilience and vision into our work with the Confederation. Together, we will remind Earth of its place among the stars. As the council adjourned, Terran lingered, his thoughts racing. He felt both the weight and the exhilaration of their mission. With each step he took through the shimmering corridors of Telos, he was reminded of the city's history, its resilience, and its connection to the vast star-spanning alliance that awaited their return to the fold. The journey ahead was daunting, but it was also filled with promise, a promise that Telos would honor as it always had, with grace and determination. Beneath the surface of the earth, where the land above was but a distant memory, the city of Telos thrived, a hidden world carved deep into the heart of the mountain. Here, amidst the ancient tunnels and crystalline chambers, life pulsed in ways unimaginable to those who lived on the surface. The city was alive, not just in the movement of its inhabitants or the hum of its technology, but in the very air they breathed and the light that filled their world. A curious traveler, an emissary from a distant world, wandered the streets of Telos, his eyes wide with awe as he gazed at the city's wonders. "How is it possible?" he asked, his voice echoing in the vaulted hall where crystalline structures glowed softly, casting shadows that danced like spirits on the walls. "How do you live under the earth? What kind of light do you have? Are you mole people?" The residents of Telos, tall and graceful, paused in their tasks, their eyes glinting with a knowing serenity. Marian, the High Elder, approached the traveler with a smile that was both warm and knowing, as though she had heard the question countless times. "Yes," she said, her voice rich and melodic, "we do live under the earth, but no, we are not mole people." She gestured to the glowing stones embedded within the walls, their light pulsing like the slow beating of a heart. "This is our light." The emissary blinked, unsure if he had heard her correctly. "What? What kind of light is this? It seems so alive." "It is," Marian replied, her voice calm, but with a depth of ancient knowledge that made the air itself seem to hold its breath. "These stones, you see, have a crystalline structure. They are not merely stones, but living, breathing entities. When we fuse them with an electromagnetic force of energy, they begin to draw in even the invisible rays of light that surround us. The crystalline matrix responds, creating a polarity that transforms the energy into visible light, much like a sun, small yet powerful." The emissary's eyes widened in disbelief as he gazed at the stones. Each one seemed to glow with a warm, golden light, casting the city in hues of amber and sapphire. They burn like the sun?" he asked, almost afraid to ask. "Indeed," Marian confirmed. "These stones burn for hundreds of thousands of years. The light they produce is a full-spectrum light, bathing our world in the same radiance that the surface receives from the sun, albeit in a more controlled form. A single stone can burn for 500,000 years before its crystalline matrix breaks down." As she spoke, the emissary took a step closer to the stone in front of him, reaching out with tentative fingers. The warmth it radiated was gentle, soothing, even like the glow of the sun at dusk. He marveled at the thought of such longevity. These stones, with their ancient energy, could sustain the city far beyond the lifespan of most civilizations. "But what about the air?" he asked, his voice tinged with wonder. "How do you breathe? How is it? How is it not stale down here?" Marian's smile deepened. "We have our plants to thank for that. Just as the surface world has its trees and forests, we have our own ecosystem, carefully cultivated and maintained." She led him deeper into the city, where lush greenery flourished in vast suspended gardens, their vibrant leaves catching the light in a dance of green and gold. "We, the animals and the plants, live in harmony. We exhale carbon monoxide and the plants take it in, producing the oxygen we need to survive." She paused by a tall, slender tree, its roots weaving through the stone beneath them, its leaves shimmering in the artificial sunlight. "This ecosystem is self-sustaining, much like the ones on the surface. We've created a balance. The air circulates naturally, and the water that runs through the city helps to refresh and purify it, just as rivers do on the surface." The emissary stood in awe, taking in the sight of the air moving gently through the plant-filled chambers, the delicate scent of flowers mingling with the clean, crisp air. "It feels like the surface," he murmured, "only deeper, richer somehow." Yes, Moraine agreed softly. It is much like the surface, yet we have crafted it to be even more harmonious. We no longer rely on the surface's vents as we once did, for the ecosystem we built is so efficient that we seldom need outside air. And though the air from above has become polluted over the centuries, we do not need it as much as we once did. Here we have our own world to sustain us. As they walked deeper into the city, the emissary marveled at how the air seemed to hum with life, how the light seemed to pulse and shift with an energy all its own. It was as though the city itself was breathing, living, existing in a delicate dance with the elements. And in that moment, he realized that he was not in a place of darkness or decay. He was in a world that had found its own rhythm, a sanctuary that had endured the passage of time, thriving beneath the surface, away from the chaos above. As Moraine led him through the city, she spoke of its origins, of the ancient cataclysms that had forced the people of Telos to retreat underground. We built this world, she said, to honor the memory of the Earth's surface, but also to protect ourselves from the destruction that ravaged it. And in doing so, we created a new way of living, one that is balanced, self-sustaining, and in harmony with the forces that govern the universe. The emissary stood still for a moment, breathing in the air, feeling the soft pulse of the city around him. It was unlike anything he had ever experienced, a place where light and life flowed seamlessly, where every element was carefully woven together to create a world that was, in its own way, as perfect as the sun above. "How do you ever leave this place?" he asked, his voice full of wonder and disbelief. "How do you leave such peace behind?" Moraine turned to him, her eyes soft and wise, as though she had seen this question asked countless times. "We do not leave," she replied simply. "We carry it within us wherever we go. It is our responsibility to protect the light, to guard the air, to honor the balance that sustains us. And in doing so, we keep this world alive for as long as we are here." The emissary nodded, a deep understanding settling in his heart. Telos was not just a city beneath the earth. It was a living testament to the enduring power of harmony, a place where light, air, and life were woven together in a symphony of existence. And he realized with a quiet reverence that perhaps it was not the world above that was the true mystery, but the world below, this hidden sanctuary that had learned long ago to live with the earth, not in defiance of it. Deep beneath the earth, where the mountains embraced, guarded the secrets of Telos, the city hummed with a quiet energy, a living rhythm shaped by wisdom, harmony, and the unbreakable laws of nature. Among its people, the air was thick with purpose, for they lived not only in physical structure but in spiritual balance, a legacy passed down through eons of history. At the heart of this ancient city, nestled within the Great Hall of Governance, the Council of 12 convened, a ruling body composed of the highest order of beings. Ascended masters who had proved their worth in wisdom, strength, and calmness in the face of any conflict. The Council of 12 was not an ordinary gathering of rulers. These were not men or women seeking power for their own gain. They were beings of light and experience, each one chosen for their profound ability to remain grounded and steady even when the most turbulent winds threatened the foundations of their society. There were 6 men and 6 women, a balanced representation of both the male and female flames, the divine forces that governed all life in the universe. As the day began, the grand chamber of the council filled with a soft golden glow emanating from the crystalline stones that lined the walls. The air was heavy with the sense of sacred duty, and the silence spoke volumes of the reverence held for the work that took place within these hallowed halls. At the center of the room, a long oval table stood, its surface polished to a mirror-like sheen. The council members seated themselves, their faces serene but filled with the depth of unspoken knowledge. There was no need for pomp or ceremony here, only the quiet power of those who had ascended beyond the petty distractions of the mortal world. On this day, the matter before the council was a delicate one, an issue of justice and fairness that had been brought to them by one of the smaller councils that governed the districts of Telos. As the leaders of the city, the 12 were tasked with making decisions that would maintain harmony, unity, and balance. But there were times, as in this instance, when the problems of the people could not be solved on a smaller scale. Is there a quorum? The voice of Thalor, one of the elder council members, broke the silence. Rich and deep with authority, "We are present," answered Allura, a wise and compassionate woman who had seen many cycles of life in Telos. Her voice was calm, as though she carried the weight of countless lifetimes in her words. The conversation began in earnest. The matter under discussion involving a civil dispute between two families, two houses that had once been allies but now stood at odds over a claim of land and resources. The smaller council, after much deliberation, had failed to find common ground. It was now up to the 12 to decide. In Telos, however, the process of resolving such disputes was not simply about debate. It was about understanding the hearts and minds of those involved and making decisions that would heal, not wound. This was where the arbitrators came in. "Let us call upon the arbitrators," Thalor suggested, his eyes fixed on the ceiling, as though seeking a higher guidance from the unseen forces that govern their world. Arbitrators were not ordinary judges. They were revered priests and priestesses, chosen for their profound understanding of the human psyche and their ability to peer into the Akashic records, the spiritual archives of the universe that contain the histories of all souls. These sacred beings could see the true motivations and intentions behind every action, every decision, for the Akashas did not lie. They revealed not only the facts, but the deeper truths of the heart. "It is decided," Allura spoke with a calm assurance, her gaze sweeping over the faces of the council members. "We will allow the arbitrators to mediate and guide us in this matter." Once the decision was made, the council did not linger on the issue. Their power was not in prolonging disputes, but in resolving them swiftly and with the utmost fairness. They trusted the arbitrators, knowing that once they had spoken, the matter would be settled, and there would be no room for personal bias or further argument. The sound of soft footsteps echoed in the hall, and in the doorway appeared two figures, an elderly man and a young woman, both wearing the robes of high priests. Their presence was commanding yet serene. They were the arbiters of this dispute, tasked with hearing the stories of both families and finding a resolution. The man, who was called Orin, bowed to the council, his voice carrying a tone of reverence as he addressed them. "We will do as requested, council. We will listen to the hearts of the families, and through the Akashas, we will find the truth." The woman beside him, named Arena, nodded solemnly. "We will make a decision rooted in wisdom, understanding, and compassion, as is our duty." The Council of 12 watched in silence as the arbitrators left to begin their work. There was no need for further discussion, for the decision had been made, and they trusted the process implicitly. Their role was not to meddle with the outcome, but to ensure that the spiritual principles of justice, balance, and unity prevailed. Later, once the families had spoken and the Akashas had revealed their truths, the arbitrators returned to the council, their faces solemn but filled with quiet certainty. "We have heard the stories," Orin said, his voice resonating with the weight of his experience. "We have seen the roots of the conflict, and we have uncovered the truth that lies beneath the surface of their dispute." "And the decision?" asked Thalor, his eyes focused on the arbitrators. "After careful deliberation," Arena spoke with clarity, "we have determined that the land in question shall be returned to the original family. However, the second family shall be compensated with a different plot of land, one that suits their needs and honors their heritage. Both families will also be required to share the resources of the land for the next 10 cycles, ensuring cooperation and mutual benefit." There was a long pause as the council members absorbed the decision. They knew that such a resolution would heal the rift between the two families, allowing them to move forward in peace. "And it is decided," Allura said, her voice firm and final. "We accept the judgment of the arbitrators. Their wisdom has brought us the clarity we needed. But even within the hallowed halls of the council, there was one final voice that could intervene, the voice of Ra and Rana Mu, the king and queen of Telos. who held not only hereditary authority but also the sacred mantle of Melchizedek priests and priestesses. Their position was not one of rule alone, but of spiritual leadership, ensuring that every decision upheld the divine principles of the city. Ra and Rana-Mu entered the chamber, their presence overwhelming yet gentle, like the sun and moon rising together in the sky. The Ra and Rana-Mu lineage had existed for over 30,000 years, a symbol of the unbroken continuity of their city's sacred order. Council, Ra spoke, his voice resonating with both warmth and authority. We approve of this decision. The resolution is sound, and the healing it promises will restore balance to the city. Rana-Mu, ever the embodiment of grace, smiled gently. May peace be restored, and may this act of justice ripple through Telos, binding us all in unity. With their words, the matter was sealed. The Council of 12, with the Ra and Rana-Mu at their helm, had once again fulfilled their duty to guide Telos with wisdom, to resolve conflicts with compassion, and to ensure that harmony, the foundation of their existence, was always maintained. And as the final words were spoken, the city of Telos, ancient and eternal, continued to thrive in peace beneath the earth, a testament to the power of balance and the wisdom of those who govern with love and understanding. In the heart of Telos, where the city's subterranean beauty hummed with the quiet energy of an ancient civilization, there stood a structure of unmatched reverence, the temple. It was the sacred heart of the city, not just a place of worship, but the very embodiment of the divine order that governed every soul within the underground sanctuary. The air within the temple was thick with a sense of sacred purpose, the walls etched with symbols that told stories older than time itself. Here in this hallowed space, the Melchizedek priesthood held sway, guiding the lives of all who live beneath the earth, illuminating the path toward balance and spiritual enlightenment. The Melchizedek were not simply a religious order. They were cosmic priests, ancient beings who carried the light from the highest realms to the lower, bringing divine wisdom from the heavens to the earth below. Everywhere in the universe, the Melchizedek existed, transcending the boundaries of space and time. They were the chosen ones, those who had proven through countless lifetimes their unwavering commitment to the good of all, always placing the light, the will of the divine, above their own personal desires. Their very existence was a testament to their devotion. A Melchizedek priest or priestess was a being who had demonstrated beyond all doubt that they would always choose the highest good, the greatest light, even if it meant personal sacrifice. Their decisions were never clouded by selfishness or ego, and it was for this reason that they held the ultimate authority in matters of great importance. The temple, led by the Melchizedek, had the final say in all matters of governance and justice, for they acted as a direct conduit to the divine. On this day, the temple was alive with the steady rhythm of life, priests and priestesses moving gracefully through the vast halls, their robes shimmering like starlight in the glow of the crystalline stones that lined the walls. The air was rich with the scent of incense and the soft murmur of sacred chants that echoed through the temple's chambers, a constant reminder of the ever-present connection between the celestial and the earthly. It was in the central chamber that the most sacred work took place. This was where the most revered members of the Melchizedek priesthood gathered to offer guidance to the people of Telos. The chamber was vast, its high ceiling adorned with intricate carvings depicting the cosmic forces at work in the universe. At the center of the room, a great altar stood, made of pure, polished stone that glimmered like the night sky. As the high priestess of the temple, Amara had witnessed countless seekers come and go, each one striving to find their true purpose within the great tapestry of existence. Some came to become priests and priestesses themselves, while others sought wisdom for their own paths, artists, warriors, healers, and leaders, all seeking the light to guide them in their lives. The temple was a place of learning, a sacred school where all who desired knowledge could come to deepen their understanding of the human psyche, the spirit, and the universe. Amara stood before the altar, her long silver robes flowing around her like the mist of an ancient dream. Her eyes, bright with the wisdom of many lifetimes, gazed out over the gathered priests and priestesses. Today was no ordinary day. Today, a decision had to be made, one that would affect the balance of Telos itself. But in this temple, no decision was ever made hastily. The Melchizedek knew that the divine plan unfolded in its own time, and they had learned to wait for the light to reveal the right course of action. Her voice, soft yet filled with undeniable authority, broke the silence that had settled over the chamber. "We are the bringers of light," she said, her words carrying the weight of eons. "It is not our will that guides us, but the will of the divine. We are but instruments, the hands through which the cosmic plan is made manifest." Her gaze swept across the room, meeting the eyes of each priest and priestess. "It is our duty to ensure that the highest good is always upheld. In this, we place the light above our desires, our wishes, and our fears. For only by doing so can we remain true to the path of the divine." Amara paused, allowing her words to sink in, the truth of them resonating deeply within the hearts of all present. The Melchizedek had never wavered in their commitment to the light, and it was this unwavering dedication that allowed them to make decisions with absolute clarity, free from personal attachment or bias. This was why the temple held such power. It was a place where the light was always honored, where the divine will was always the final word. A young priestess, Alicia, stepped forward, her eyes filled with the burning desire to serve the light. She had trained for many years, learning the ways of the Melchizedek, studying the ancient texts, and meditating on the mysteries of the universe. But today she was tasked with something far more profound. She was to make a decision that would shape the future of Telos. "Elder Amara," Alicia said, her voice trembling slightly, "I have been entrusted with a matter of great importance. 2 families have come to us, each claiming the same land, and neither will relent. They seek the wisdom of the temple, but they also seek justice. How can we, as the keepers of the light, guide them toward a resolution?" Amara regarded the young priestess with a steady gaze. She could see the fire of righteousness in Alicia's eyes, but she also saw the weight of the task that had been placed upon her. It was not enough to simply know what was right. One had to understand why it was right and how to act in a way that would bring balance, not division. "You are correct," Amara replied, her voice soft yet full of strength. "The light does not favor one over the other. It is not for us to choose sides, but we must look deeper. The Akashas, the sacred records of the universe, will show us the truth of the matter. We must look beyond the surface, beyond the material claim, and seek the spiritual lesson that lies within." With a graceful motion, Amara extended her hand, and Alicia, though unsure, placed her hand gently into the elder priestess's. Together they closed their eyes, opening their spirits to the vast cosmic expanse that surrounded them. In the quiet stillness, they reached out with their consciousness, tapping into the infinite wisdom of the Akashic records. For a long moment, the temple fell silent, save for the soft hum of the crystals that filled the air with their soothing energy. It was as though time itself had paused, waiting for the light to reveal the truth. And then, like a ripple across a still pond, the truth came, clear, pure, and undeniable. Amara opened her eyes first, her face radiant with the light of understanding. "The land in question," she said, her voice calm but filled with certainty, "is not the real issue. The true lesson here is one of forgiveness and trust. These families must learn to release their attachments, to forgive the wrongs of the past, and to work together for the good of all. This is the path of the light, and it is the only way to restore harmony." Alicia nodded, her heart filled with peace as she understood the lesson. The truth had come from the Akashas, but it had also come from the light within them both, the divine presence that flowed through all things. "We will guide them," Alicia said, her voice now steady with newfound conviction. "We will teach them the way of the light, And so the decision was made, not from a place of judgment, but from a place of deep, abiding understanding. The light had spoken, and the Melchizedek had listened. Through their wisdom, the path was clear, and Telos would continue to thrive under the guidance of those who always place the good of the many above the desires of the few. The temple had spoken, and in the stillness of the sacred halls, the divine plan unfolded once more. The warm golden light of Telos bathed the city in a serene glow, as it always did, but today the light seemed to carry an added sense of peace. In the temple, the air was thick with the sweet scent of incense and the soft melodious hum of sacred chants echoing gently through the stone halls. Here in this hallowed place, life began anew, not just in the physical realm, but in the very essence of the soul. Solis, a young woman with eyes that gleamed like the stars above, stood before the sacred altar, her hand resting gently on her rounded belly. She had only just learned of the life growing within her, but already she could feel the connection. Deep and undeniable, she was not alone. Her child, though still in its earliest stages, already knew her, knew the rhythm of her heartbeat, the warmth of her touch. It was a bond forged in the divine glow of Telos itself, one that would carry them both through the trials and joys of their shared journey. As soon as a woman in Telos learned of her pregnancy, she was guided to the temple, where the sanctity of her conception was honored and nurtured from the very first moment. Solis was no exception. The moment she had received the news of her pregnancy, she had come to the temple, the most sacred place in Telos, where the energies of creation itself pulsed with life. She was ushered into a soft, radiant room, filled with the most beautiful and harmonious sounds and sights. The walls shimmered with intricate patterns of light that danced like 1,000 stars, and the air was filled with music, gentle, soothing, and yet powerful in its beauty. Solis settled into a comfortable chair, the soft fabrics of the room enveloping her like a warm embrace. She closed her eyes, breathing deeply, letting the energy of the temple flow through her. This was the beginning of her child's journey, and she was being guided with loving care. "You are beautiful," a soft voice whispered the words like a caress against her skin. "Your child is perfect, just as you are." Solis smiled, her heart swelling with love and gratitude. The affirmation was constant here, a reassuring presence that enveloped her and her child. Every moment, from the first stirrings of life within her to the very last breath she would take, was filled with love. This was the foundation upon which her child would grow, a foundation of beauty, of light, of perfection. In Telos, the understanding of life began long before birth. The teachings of the temple had long shown that the very first cells of a child's conception were shaped by the energy around them, by the emotions and thoughts of the parents, and even by the environment into which they were born. As the months passed and the child's development progressed, those early impressions would shape the very essence of their being. Solis knew that from the moment of conception, her child was absorbing everything, the joy, the love, the beauty of the world around them. She and her partner, Jarek, were already speaking to the baby, their voices tender and full of warmth. They spoke of love, of the beauty of the world, of the greatness that their child would come to know. They played little games, telling the baby stories of the stars and the ancient wonders of Telos. Every moment, every breath they shared was a reflection of the deep, unbreakable bond they felt with their child. The temple understood the power of emotions, the way they imprinted upon the soul. It was why, in Telos, they ensured that each child began their journey surrounded by beauty, by light, by the purest forms of love. It was a truth known by all. The way a child was brought into the world determined much of who they would become. A child born in an atmosphere of conflict, surrounded by negative emotions, would carry those scars deep within. Those children often grew to feel insecure, unworthy, disconnected. But here in the sanctuary of Telos, children began life in an environment of wholeness and peace. As Solis rested, a gentle melody began to fill the room, soft notes flowing through the air, harmonizing with her heartbeat. She felt a deep sense of calm settle over her. knowing that her child would never experience the trauma that had marred so many lives. Her child would be filled with the purest energy, light, beauty, love. Jarek joined her in the temple later that day, his presence bringing with it a sense of grounded strength. He too had come to the temple to sit with his partner and bask in the divine energy that surrounded them. Together, they sat in silence, allowing the sacred space to nurture and support them. They were creating a foundation for their child, one built not just on the physical, but on the spiritual, a foundation of light. "What will it be like, Jarek?" Solis asked softly, her voice filled with wonder. He smiled, his hand resting gently on her shoulder. "It will be beautiful. We are giving our child the gift of light from the very beginning. It will know love and beauty and peace. It will grow strong in that." In Telos, the very process of creation was revered. It was not just a physical act, but a sacred calling. And here, as the temple nurtured the lives of the future, the city itself mirrored that sacred growth. The people of Telos had learned long ago the importance of harmony and balance, and their society was built upon these principles. As the months passed, the time came for Solis to experience the miracle of childbirth. But in Telos, the experience was unlike any other. The birthing process, honed through millennia of knowledge and divine wisdom, was quick and gentle. The accelerated growth of the fetus, nurtured in an environment of love and light, ensured that the child was ready to enter the world with strength and vitality. Solis felt a surge of energy as the time approached. The temple's soft, calming music played in the background, and she could feel the gentle presence of the divine surrounding her. She was not alone. Her child, her precious creation, was ready to come into the world. Jarek held her hand, his voice steady and reassuring. "You're doing great. Just breathe. You and the baby are perfect." The process, though intense, was smooth, each moment filled with the energy of creation itself. The child was born quickly, its tiny body glowing with the same radiant light that had surrounded it from the moment of conception. Solis held her baby in her arms, tears of joy and love streaming down her face. "This is our gift," she whispered, her voice filled with awe. "A perfect soul." The temple's light shone brightly around them, enveloping them in its divine embrace. The child, so new to the world, already knew the warmth of love, the purity of light, and as it gazed up at its parents, its eyes filled with wonder and trust, the cycle of life in Telos began anew, perfect, whole, and filled with love. In the sacred halls of the temple, the air was thick with reverence, anticipation, and the scent of incense that lingered like a blessing upon the air. It was a place where life, in its most profound form, was celebrated, not only as the beginning of an individual's journey, but as a sacred event woven into the very fabric of Telos itself. Here, beneath the temple's arched stone ceilings, a child was about to enter the world, but unlike any birth known to the people of the surface. This was a birth submerged in the tranquil waters of the temple's sacred birthing pools. Solis, her eyes radiant with the glow of impending motherhood, entered the birthing chamber, her body heavy with the weight of her child and the understanding of the process she was about to experience. The room, softly lit with the golden glow of lanterns, held an air of serenity. The water in the birthing tub shimmered under the flickering lights, inviting her into its embrace. Here there were no harsh lights or sterile cold spaces. Instead, the water felt like a living thing, warm and comforting, a reflection of the care that surrounded her. Solis settled into the tub, her body enveloped by the comforting embrace of the water. Her breath was slow and steady, her heart attuned to the rhythm of the temple's soothing hymns that played softly in the background. Beside her, a birthing priestess stood, her presence calm and assured. The priestess, one of the temple's most revered, whispered softly in Solis's ear, her voice a balm that soothed away any lingering anxieties. "Focus on your breath, Solis," the priestess murmured, her hands gentle as she adjusted the water's temperature to perfection. "There is no pain here, only pressure. Let the water carry you." Solis closed her eyes, letting the words settle in her mind like the sacred blessings of the temple itself. she could feel her body relaxing, the tension melting away. And as the first waves of labor began to rise within her, she found that the sensation was not the sharp, searing pain she had heard about. Instead, it was a gentle pressure, a sensation of deep connection to her child, as if every moment of the child's growth had led them here, together, in this sacred moment. The birthing priestess's voice continued to guide her, lulling her into a state of heightened awareness, but not of trance. The water will carry you through this, and there is no rush. Your child is ready, and so are you. Trust in this. Outside the tub, Jarek stood, his gaze never leaving Solis. His presence was a quiet anchor, the steady pulse of his energy providing a counterbalance to the sacred energy that filled the room. His hands, once trembling with anticipation, now rested calmly on the edge of the tub, his eyes filled with awe and wonder as he watched his partner bring their child into the world. Solis shifted slightly, a small gasp escaping her lips as the pressure increased. She closed her eyes, focusing inward, feeling the movement of her child within her. With each wave of pressure, she felt her connection to the child grow deeper, the bond between them solidifying with every moment. Her mind was filled with warmth, with love, with the promise of this new life that was soon to be in her arms. The birthing priestess moved with a quiet grace, placing a gentle hand on Solis's shoulder. "Trust the water, trust your body," she repeated. "The child will know when it is time to rise." The water around Solis rippled with the movements of her body, the sacred rhythm of birth unfolding in perfect harmony. And then, without warning, the child began to emerge, its tiny body slipping from the warmth of the womb into the embrace of the water. Solis's breath caught in her throat as she looked down, seeing the first glimpse of her child. It was not a sudden rush, not the shock of cold air or harsh hands, but a gradual unfolding, slow and gentle, like the petals of a flower opening to the sun. The child, still nestled within the water, seemed to recognize the warmth of its surroundings, its tiny body relaxed and at peace. With a soft exhale, Solis welcomed her child into her arms, cradling it gently beneath the water's surface. The child, its skin soft and glistening, moved instinctively, its small hands grasping at the air, its chest rising and falling as it breathed for the first time. There was no shock, no sudden jolt from one harsh environment to another. The water had provided a continuous flow of comfort, guiding the child from the safety of the womb to the first breath of the world. The birthing priestess, her eyes filled with quiet joy, watched as Solis held her child, the new life unfolding in the sacred water. "It is perfect," she whispered, her voice a quiet blessing. Solis smiled, tears of joy and relief streaming down her face as she gazed at the tiny, beautiful creature in her arms. She whispered back, her voice filled with awe. "It is perfect." Jarek knelt beside her, his hand reaching for his child, his touch soft and reverent. "We have brought you into a world of love," he murmured, his voice thick with emotion. "Welcome, little one." The child, still beneath the water, opened its eyes for the first time, taking in the sight of its parents, their faces filled with adoration. Solis felt her heart swell with a love so deep it almost overwhelmed her, and she cradled the child close, knowing that from this moment forward they would walk through the world together, bathed in the warmth of their love. Slowly, the child's tiny movements brought it to the surface. It took a small, quick breath, and then, as if guided by some ancient instinct, it submerged again, drawing air from the umbilical cord, its chest rising and falling in a rhythmic dance of life. Solis watched in wonder as her child breathed without fear, without pain, as it had always known this rhythm, this dance of life. After a few moments, the child emerged again, its tiny face glowing with the first breath of air. The birthing priestess moved with quiet precision, a soft laser beam cutting the umbilical cord, severing the final tie between mother and child. The cut was swift, painless, leaving no mark, and Solis felt her child move in her arms, its first breath now completely independent. With the child now fully free, cradled in her arms, Solis smiled, a smile that was the culmination of love, strength, and the divine journey they had shared. This was not just the beginning of a life, but the fulfillment of a sacred promise made long before the child had ever taken form. The warmth of the water surrounded them, the peace of the temple wrapping them in its embrace. The world outside was vast and unknown, but in this moment, in the sacred waters of Telos, everything was perfect. Everything was as it should be, in the heart of Telos, where the land was bathed in the light of 1,000 stars, and the whispers of the ancients filled the air. The birth of a child was only the beginning of a journey that would span a lifetime. From the moment a child entered the world, they were embraced not only by their birth family, but by an entire community. The process of nurturing and educating a soul was sacred, woven into the very fabric of Telosian life. A newborn's first steps into the world were filled with light, not the harsh light of expectation, but the soft, golden glow of acceptance and connection. From the very moment of their arrival, a child was assigned 12 sets of godparents, each chosen with the care of a gardener selecting the most fertile soil for a seed to grow. These godparents were more than just guardians. They were guides, mentors, and companions, each offering a different facet of life to the child. It was a profound way of ensuring that the child never grew up in isolation, never confined to the narrow walls of their birth family, but was instead embraced by a wider, more diverse community. The child's world was not a small one of us and them, but a vast and rich tapestry of relationships. Each godparent offered a unique perspective, an alternative way of seeing the world, which ensured that the child grew up knowing that family extended beyond bloodlines. There was no us and them in Telos. There was only we. This continuous flow of love and guidance helped prevent the rigidity that often grew within families on other worlds, where the unyielding weight of tradition could choke the soul. In Telos, there were no such shackles. The child's education, too, was a far cry from the restricted schooling found elsewhere. In Telos, children began their formal education around the age of 3, when the world was still full of wonder and every moment felt like a new discovery. The educators, revered priests and priestesses of the temple, did not teach from the rigidity of a textbook, but from the living energy of the universe itself. From the very beginning, the child was taught not only to count, but to question, not only to read, but to understand. By the time they were 3, the children were already beginning to grasp concepts that most others would not comprehend until much later. They could solve simple algebraic equations, understand the basics of language, and even playfully explore abstract ideas. At 3, their minds were open like flowers to the sun, and the nurturing environment of Telos ensured that their thirst for knowledge was met with gentle but firm guidance. The why and how questions that poured from their lips were not met with frustration or dismissal, as they so often were in other lands, but with patient answers from those who understood that the child's mind was a sponge, eager to soak up the wisdom of the universe. Each day was a dance between play and learning. The temple grounds were a place where every question had an answer, where every action held meaning. The child was encouraged to explore not only the tangible world around them, but the deeper mysteries of life. Through the soft cadence of music, the discipline of mathematics, and the joy of storytelling, the child's mind and spirit grew as one. The educators in Telos were not just teachers of facts and figures, but stewards of the soul. Every lesson was designed not only to teach a child how to think, but also to help them understand their place in the grand symphony of existence. This education did not stop at the walls of the classroom. It was woven into every aspect of life, from the smallest breath to the grandest dance. At 5 years old, a child would not only be able to recite poetry or solve complex puzzles, but would also be able to express themselves in ways that were meaningful. The children of Telos were encouraged to act, to sing, to dance, and to create. They put on plays that reflected their own understanding of the world, a world seen through the bright eyes of a child. These plays were not mere performances, but were deep expressions of the child's growing awareness of themselves and the world around them. Through their art, they learn empathy, joy, and even sorrow, all in the safety of the community's loving embrace. This education was not about cramming facts into the mind, but about allowing the child to grow naturally, unimpeded by the harsh pressures of competition or conformity. It was a system that embraced the uniqueness of each child, fostering their individual strengths while weaving them into the fabric of a collective humanity. In the evenings, when the sun sank low and painted the sky with hues of crimson and gold, the children would often play together, their laughter echoing through the streets of Telos like a song. But even in their play, they were learning not just the rules of games, but the deeper lessons of cooperation, fairness, and kindness. The elders, often sitting on the steps of their homes, would watch these children with pride, knowing that they were raising a generation that would understand the delicate balance of life, one where every soul was valued, every voice was heard. The children were not confined to classrooms or lectures. Instead, their world was a living, breathing entity full of opportunities to learn and grow. Through dancing, they learned rhythm and grace. Through singing, they discovered the power of their own voices. Through sports, they gained discipline and teamwork. And in the quiet moments of meditation, they learned the art of stillness, of listening to the deep, quiet voice within. But it was not just about intellectual learning. It was about nurturing the whole child, mind, body, and spirit. When a child's energy bubbled over, when their enthusiasm threatened to spill over into chaos, it was channeled into creative outlets. The walls of Telos were lined with spaces for children to run, to jump, to shout, and to explore. There were no calls to silence their energy. Instead, they were encouraged to express themselves fully, to understand that every emotion, every impulse had a purpose and a place in the world. In Telos, childhood was not a time of restriction, but of expansion. It was a time to grow, to question, to explore, and to discover. It was a time to connect with others, to understand the beauty of shared humanity, and to lay the foundation for a life of fulfillment and purpose. Here, the children were not seen as the leaders of tomorrow, but as the living, breathing leaders of today. And it was through their education, through the loving embrace of their godparents and teachers, that they would learn to carry the wisdom of Telos with them for the rest of their lives. For in Telos, education was not just about what the child knew, but about who they became. It was the nurturing of the spirit, the cultivation of the soul, and the understanding that knowledge, love, and community were the very keys to unlocking the deepest potential of every human being. In the land of Telos, where the sun bathed the world in a golden glow, children were not merely taught to walk or speak, but to explore the very fabric of existence itself. From the moment they could comprehend the vastness of the universe, they were taught that their minds and souls were boundless, capable of traversing worlds beyond the material. The elders, wise in the ways of the cosmos, had long understood that the body was but one vessel in an endless sea of possibilities. And so, from the age of 5, the children of Telos began their journey into the realms beyond the physical, a journey that would forever shape their understanding of reality. Astral projection, as it was known, was not a concept to be feared or dismissed, but a gift, a door to the unseen world that could be opened at will. To the children of Telos, it was as natural as breathing. With careful guidance from the priests and priestesses, they learned to step outside their physical bodies, to journey into the astral plane, and to experience the world as an ethereal being. There, in that formless realm, they could travel beyond the boundaries of space and time, visiting places their eyes could not behold, and witnessing truths that were hidden from the waking world. The temple, with its towering spires and sacred chambers, was not only a place of worship, but a haven for those seeking to understand the deeper mysteries of existence. It was here that the children gathered, eyes wide with wonder, ready to learn the ancient art of astral travel. The atmosphere was thick with the energy of the unseen, and the air hummed with the whispers of forgotten wisdom. Under the tutelage of their elders, the children sat in quiet meditation, their small hands pressed to the cool stone beneath them. They were taught to empty their minds, to release the weight of the physical world and to allow their souls to rise unbound into the infinite. As they practiced, their bodies remained still, their chests rising and falling with slow, steady breaths. But their spirits, their essences began to move, to slip free from the constraints of flesh. At first, the journeys were brief, small excursions into the ether, where they could catch glimpses of the world beyond. But with time and practice, the children grew adept. They could travel to the Akashic records, that vast and sacred library of all knowledge, where the past, present, and future existed as one. There they could learn the secrets of the universe, ancient truths, hidden histories, and the vast interconnections that bound all things together. They visited distant lands, seeing the world through the eyes of their astral forms. Some journeyed to the subterranean cities where the wise and ancient lived in harmony beneath the earth. Others soared above the surface, gazing upon the great cities of Telos, their spires stretching into the heavens. These experiences were not just dreams or visions, but real, tangible journeys. The children of Telos did not need to take anyone's word for what existed beyond their world. They could see it for themselves. The elders taught them that the astral plane was a realm of infinite possibilities. The more evolved the soul, the farther it could travel. With each journey, the children learned to navigate the ether, to understand its mysteries, and to distinguish between what was true and what was illusion. They could no longer be deceived by the fleeting shadows that so often clouded the minds of the unknowing. They had seen the truth with their own eyes. They knew, for example, that ascension, the elevation of the soul to higher planes of existence, was not a mere dream, but a reality. They had felt its pull, its promise in the depths of their being. They knew, too, that beings from other worlds existed, that the cosmos was teeming with life, both seen and unseen. And so, the children of Telos grew not only in knowledge, but in wisdom. They understood that the physical world was but one layer of a much greater, much more intricate reality. They were taught to manifest from within, to shape their lives not through external forces, but through the power of their own souls. They learned to trust not only in what they could see, but in what they could feel, in the unseen forces that flowed through the universe. But perhaps most importantly, they learned to trust themselves. For when one could travel the ether, visit the Akasha, and see the truths of the universe with their own eyes, there was no room for doubt. No one could trick them or lead them astray. They knew what was real, they knew what was possible, and they carried that knowledge with them as they walked through the world, their heads held high, their hearts open to the mysteries of existence. As they entered their teenage years, a time of growth and change that often brought confusion and doubt to those in other lands, the children of Telos were not burdened by the same struggles. They had seen the vastness of the world, felt the depths of their own souls, and understood that the trials of youth were but fleeting moments in the grand tapestry of life. They faced the challenges of adolescence with clarity, knowing that they were not alone in the world and that the answers they sought were always within their reach. In Telos, there was no confusion about who they were or what their purpose was. The teenage years, a time of questioning and searching in other cultures, were a time of deepening understanding and spiritual growth in Telos. The children who had learned to journey beyond the physical world were not trapped in the chaos of adolescence. Instead, they were able to navigate the complexities of growing up with the wisdom that transcended age. They knew that the world was vast and full of mysteries, but they also knew that they had the power to understand it, to shape it, and to become the beings they were meant to be. And so, the children of Telos grew into adults who were not only wise but enlightened, not only knowledgeable but awakened. They were a society of beings who had seen beyond the veil, who understood the true nature of existence, and who carried that knowledge with them, spreading it to all who would listen. They were a people who had learned to live in harmony with the unseen, who had learned to trust the power within themselves, and who had discovered that the universe was not a place to be feared, but a place to be embraced, with open arms and an open heart. In the subterranean city of Telos, adolescence was not a season of rebellion and anguish, but a sacred rite of passage, a tumultuous storm navigated with care and wisdom. When a child turned 12, they were welcomed into the fold of the group, a collective of their peers, united by age and bound by shared experiences. The years from 12 to 18, often fraught with emotional turbulence, were not dreaded but embraced as a critical time for growth. Here, the essence of Telos' ethos, community, understanding, and self-discovery, was cultivated with unparalleled devotion. The group was more than a gathering. It was a crucible where the fires of youth burned brightest. The halls of Telos echoed with the laughter, arguments, and unbridled energy of these young souls, their spirits as restless as the subterranean rivers flowing beneath their city. Hormones surged, minds expanded, and emotions flared like tempestuous flames. Yet in Telos, these storms were met not with fear, but with acceptance and guidance. By design, the group became a sanctuary for expression. In the sprawling chambers carved deep into the earth, free from the judgments of adults, the children explored the raw edges of their identities. They shouted, they laughed, they cried, and they questioned. No feeling was forbidden, no thought dismissed. Within this space, they were free to confront the chaos of their burgeoning selves. The mentors, priests, and priestesses, chosen not to parent but to guide, sat among them like quiet sentinels. These wise figures did not scold or impose, but listened with open hearts. They created opportunities for the children to channel their energy, to mold their frustrations into art, athletics, and adventure. What is it you feel? A priestess might ask, her voice steady and warm. Show us. Make us see it. Let it become something you can hold, shape, and release. Some children gravitated to the holographic theaters, where their frustrations took shape as vivid dramas, complete with characters and conflicts that mirrored their inner turmoil. Others poured their emotions into music, their voices and instruments weaving harmonies of both despair and hope. In athletic contests, some found solace in the sweat and strain of physicality, running until their legs burned, their hearts pounding in rhythm with the earth. For others, the vast caverns became an unbridled playground where they could run wild for days, their laughter echoing through the tunnels, their energy expended in joyous abandon. No action was judged as wrong, no feeling deemed unworthy. Even the moments of rebellion, those inevitable bursts of defiance against authority and tradition, were seen as vital. These are the years of temporary insanity, an elder would say with a knowing smile, their tone laced with humor and patience. Let them scream, let them question, let them test the edges of themselves. It is how they find their center. The children learn, too, that their emotions were not a curse, but a natural part of their evolution. The body grows stronger, the mind sharper, said one priest during a fireside gathering. But the heart struggles to keep pace. It stumbles, trips, and falls. That is not weakness. It is learning to walk a new path. Through the group, they realized that their anger, confusion, and even rebellion were not marks of failure, but signs of transformation. Within their shared frustrations, they saw reflections of themselves in their peers. Together, they worked through the challenges, forging bonds that would last a lifetime. Arguments turned to understanding, and rivalries blossomed into friendships. The shared struggles gave birth to empathy, teaching them to navigate conflict with grace. This system, so rooted in compassion, ensured that no child carried the burdens of adolescence into adulthood, where in other societies, unresolved frustrations led to lives haunted by insecurity, fear, or destructive behaviors. The children of Telos emerged from their teenage years as confident, self-assured individuals. They had faced their darkness and emerged stronger, more resilient, and deeply connected to their community. By 18 or 19, as they left the group and stepped into the wider responsibilities of adulthood, they did so with clear minds and open hearts. They carried no shame for the wildness of their youth, only gratitude for the space to express it. They understood that life was a series of transformations, each phase as vital as the last. And in this understanding, they became not only individuals, but the foundation of a society built on trust, harmony, and a profound respect for the human spirit. Beneath the vast mantle of the earth, in the luminous city of Telos, the concept of life and death had long been redefined. Here, immortality was not a myth whispered in hushed tones, but a choice, an accepted truth that wove through the fabric of society like the crystalline rivers that course through its cavernous depths. Life stretched not in decades, but in centuries, even millennia, and with this longevity came both profound opportunity and immense responsibility. Life, Elder Varen once said, his voice carrying the weight of centuries, is not a fleeting flame to be extinguished by time. It is a steady fire, as enduring as the stars, if only you believe it to be so. Elder Varen himself was a testament to this truth. Nearly 268 years old, his body bore no marks of age. His steps were as spry, his gaze as keen as they had been when he was a mere 30 years of age. Time, it seemed, had merely gifted him wisdom, a depth of understanding that could not be hurried or rushed. "Do you ever grow weary?" a curious child once asked, staring up at him with wide, innocent eyes. Varen chuckled, his laughter like the gentle chime of crystals. "Weary? Only of questions," he teased before softening. "No, child, for life is not a burden when lived with purpose. It is the unwise who grow weary, those who see life as a thing to be endured rather than cherished." The secret to this enduring vitality lay not in magic, nor in some hidden alchemy, but in the very thoughts that shaped their existence. In Telos, the notion of aging and dying was as foreign as the surface world's insistence on its inevitability. The people simply refused to accept the thought forms that brought decay. Human beings, Varen explained one evening as he addressed a group of apprentices in the Hall of Wisdom, were never meant to age, never meant to wither like leaves in autumn. Your body renews itself entirely every 7 years. Every cell is replaced, every fiber regenerated. The question then is not one of biology, but belief. Why should a body grow old when it is constantly reborn? The apprentices listened intently, their faces lit by the soft glow of the bioluminescent crystals embedded in the chamber walls. "Elder," a young woman named Liana ventured, her voice hesitant, "if it is merely a thought, why do those above still succumb to time?" "Because they believe they must," Varen replied, his expression solemn. "From the moment they draw their first breath, they are told they are mortal, that their days are numbered. That thought becomes their truth. Here, we are free of such chains." The culture of Telos had long embraced this philosophy. Children were raised not with the dread of time's passage, but with the understanding that life was theirs to shape. They were taught early that their choices, their beliefs, held the power to craft their reality. This knowledge imbued every moment with purpose, every action with meaning. "Consider," Varen said, "how a man on the surface might live. Knowing his youth is fleeting, he may rush through his years chasing pleasure, sowing chaos, convinced he must grasp all he can before the end. But here we understand there is no end, only transitions. We live not in haste, but in harmony." The apprentices nodded, their eyes bright with understanding. Varen smiled, seeing in them the seeds of a future that would stretch across the centuries. In Telos, there were those who had lived not for hundreds, but for thousands of years. Elders who had witnessed the great wars of Lemuria and Atlantis walked among them, their memories stretching back to epochs so distant they were but myths to the surface dwellers. These ancient beings, revered and respected, carried the weight of history, their lives a testament to the enduring spirit of humanity. One such elder, a woman named Ariana, was said to be over 30,000 years old. She spoke rarely, her words as precious as the gems that adorn the city, but when she did, her voice carried the wisdom of ages. "The wars of old," she once said during a gathering, "taught us the price of folly. To live long is a gift, but to live wisely, that is the true art. Immortality without purpose is a hollow thing, and so the people of Telos lived not merely for themselves, but for the betterment of their society. Without the fear of death, there was no need for recklessness, no room for the destructive behaviors born of desperation. Each life was a thread in the tapestry of their civilization, woven with care and intention. Yet, the choice of immortality was not without its end. When a soul felt it had learned all it could, it chose its next path, ascension or reincarnation. Some departed after a few centuries, others lingered for thousands of years. The decision was deeply personal, a moment of profound reflection and acceptance. When the time comes, Varen once said, you will know it is not an ending but a transformation. Just as the stars do not mourn the setting sun, neither do we mourn the passage of a soul, for it is not lost, only changed. In the subterranean city of Telos, life was not measured in years, but in purpose, not defined by limitations, but by boundless possibility. It was a lesson the surface world had long forgotten, but one the people of Telos hoped to share when the time was right. A reminder that humanity's greatest gift was not its brevity, but its potential for eternity. The luminous city of Telos, hidden beneath the surface of the world, thrived in harmony and balance, unlike the civilizations above. Bound by the grind of monetary systems and hierarchies, the people of Telos embraced a way of life centered on choice, respect, and shared responsibility. Every stage of life flowed seamlessly into the next, guided by ancient wisdom and a collective understanding that every role held value. When a child passed through the years of youthful discovery and stood on the threshold of adulthood, they faced a decision that would shape their future. How did they choose their path? Visitors often ask, their curiosity piqued by the serene rhythms of Telosian life. They observe, Sharula Dux would explain, her voice calm yet imbued with the authority of her lineage. From their earliest years, they watch, learn, and listen, not just to the world around them, but to the stirrings of their own spirit. Each person is drawn to their calling, guided by their talents and passions. When the time comes, they know. There was no pressure, no coercion. A young Telosian who felt drawn to the gardens would naturally find themselves among the verdant rows of the hydroponic farms, their hands learning the delicate art of nurturing life. A child who painted their dreams on walls might one day sculpt or create art for barter. And so the cycle continued, each person contributing to the city's needs while pursuing their own fulfillment. In Telos, commerce did not exist in the form of currency or wealth. We live by exchange, Sharula would continue, not just of goods, but of energy, effort, and care. If someone is too lazy to tend their responsibilities, the whole suffers. But that rarely happens because our people understand what we give is returned to us in abundance. The government, such as it was, functioned as a steward, ensuring that resources moved where they were needed. Food from the hydroponic farms, clothing from the looms, furniture crafted with skill and care all flowed freely to distribution centers. If you need something, Sharula said with a smile, you simply take it. Food, clothing, books, furnishings, all are available to everyone. Work in Telos was not bound by rigid schedules. Each person sets their own hours, Sharula explained. They work in cycles, following their natural rhythms. We have periods of dimness and brightness to match the cycles of the surface sun. Filters dim the lights to mimic twilight, then brighten gradually, creating a rhythm that suits all. Some worked in the brightness, their energies aligned with the simulated day. Others, the nocturnal souls, found solace and creativity in the dim hours. There was no judgment, no competition. Each person simply informed their foreman of their schedule, ensuring that the city's needs were met without sacrificing individuality. Their responsibility was not imposed, but understood. If a gardener does not work, someone may go hungry, Sharula said. If a weaver neglects their craft, others may lack clothing. This understanding inspires dedication. The work is not just labor, it is service, a gift given to the community. But what of the tasks no one wished to do? The grim and unpleasant chores, the cleaning of animal enclosures, the maintenance of sewage systems. These fell under the banner of community service, a responsibility shared by all. Even the Council of 12, Sharula said with a knowing smile, takes their turn in the muck. When we stand side by side, shoveling refuse or pulling weeds, we are reminded no one is greater or lesser. Every job matters. Community service was not resented but embraced. When you only do it once a month, Sharula explained, it becomes a chance for camaraderie. Groups sing as they work, laugh, and find joy in what might otherwise seem a burden. It fosters unity, a sense that we all hold this city together. Art and beauty thrived in Telos, not through mass production, but through the personal exchange of creativity. Art, music, massage, these are the gifts of the soul, Sharula said. They are bartered, not distributed. Perhaps an artist wishes for a sculpture and offers their music in return. The barter pool, guided by intricate systems, ensures that everyone's desires are met. Life in Telos was not merely about work. Spiritual pursuits, rest, play, and meditation held equal importance. Life, Sharula said, her voice soft yet firm, is meant to be lived well. And to live well, we must balance all aspects of ourselves. In personal relationships, this ethos of choice and respect was mirrored. Marriage in Telos came in two forms, the bond marriage and the sacred marriage. A bond marriage, Shara explained, is an exploration. Two beings stand before a priest or priestess and commit to see where their connection leads. It carries no stigma if it ends. It is simply a chapter, not the whole story. Sacred marriage, however, was a deeper commitment, entered only when a couple was certain of their path. In a sacred marriage, Sharula said, all bond marriages dissolve. It is a union meant for building a life, for raising children, a responsibility not taken lightly. Children in Telos were cherished, their upbringing a sacred duty. Some wait centuries before choosing a sacred marriage, Sharula noted. Others know in mere months. There is no judgment, only choice. As Sharula Dux concluded her teachings, her voice resonated with the timeless wisdom of her people. In Telos, she said, we live not for wealth, power, or fleeting pleasures. We live for harmony, for growth, and for the enduring connections that bind us all. And in this, we find peace,